Now
is 1 egg per pint.
I'm with
If you
you.
want
I
it
love
super,
ice cream.
if you want it super rich, you needed 2 eggs per
you want to
pint.
get on the little one, get on the other computer, use it as the monitor for now and see what the hell is going on.
Here,
No,
I'll
it's
just walk
over.
over.
go over there. That'll be a lot easier.
Let's get rid of this.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Lodak.
Hi, Mr. Lodak.
Yeah.
Eva went and shut off the internet.
That's right, blame it
before.
on me.
No, I don't know whether the other one is still
Thanks.
up or not.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin. Yeah, that's
Yeah, we're doing it again.
man. There's got to be some
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of
just
record
trying to get this computer to turn on.
button right there.
Yeah.
It's not lit. Okay, now let go. There you go.
Nice picture.
Yeah, it is. It's much better resolution monitor. So anyhow, we're trying to come back up again. Another little thing. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I have some information that down at the Goldfields Mesquite mine that I used to work back in the late 80s, they're reopening it.
Yeah.
And currently I know someone there that's, I guess a contractor is doing prep work, building the pads or something, but they're working 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, plus 8 hours a day on Saturday.
Admit who it is.
And why? Why? Okay, check to see if there's other streams still trying to run. You turn the sound down. So anyhow, yeah, that's going to be a pretty brutal schedule if it's going to be for a long period of
The only one I
time.
see that's still running is
Hi, Terry.
4th Try Live.
That's
Okay.
right now. That's where we're at.
Third
Okay,
try.
good. So
Hopefully we're better this time. We'll see.
hopefully, yeah, we haven't got the other one all hung up. So anyhow, here we are again, folks. Sorry about all this crap with the technology. That's why I like rocks. I'm back at, I work well with the Stone Age. Absolutely.
I'm thinking we may just get a hard line and get cable internet.
We may have to or something. We may have to do something. I'm not sure what it is. See, the nice thing would be to know for sure why it's going bad. So you don't, you're not just throwing parts at it and seeing what works.
The fact that the old computer, the other computers had connectivity issues, and I think the connectivity issues are on YouTube side myself.
Yeah, which
We don't know.
which means if we get another internet line, it won't make a damn bit of difference. I have no idea.
Going hard line might make a difference.
It might not.
Well, that's
Kind of
true.
sucks
The
if you
speed-
do it and then it doesn't
Yeah,
make
right.
it.
The speed isn't
A
any
new
better.
computer might make a difference too. Did
Yeah.
it? No, apparently
Well,
not.
Not yet.
You can ask Ryan and Joachim.
Yeah, I say
They
I don't know.
everything.
So let's see where we're at. We got 5 people
Got
now.
a few back. Hopefully we get a few more.
Yeah. Yeah, this really sucks because I know it's got to be really unpleasant on your end to constantly see this thing go off and on again, etc. But yeah, I'd say that Mesquite thing, and apparently the average quality of equipment operator in Imperial County, California, has not gone up.
Hit trap.
No, I haven't looked at it because I don't know what's wrong. I hate to spend a whole bunch of money to fix something and it's not what's broken. That's the front. If the computer would tell me
Hey, Dave.
why it's not working, it would be a lot nicer. I mean, I can listen to an engine and I can say, oh, I got a miss.
You're about
You know?
to go barrelistic here. Calm
Yeah.
Realistic.
Yeah.
No, it's got
Yeah.
its frustrating moment.
Yeah. Hey, David. Well, Mr. Lodak, you didn't catch anything yet? Okay, good. Well, Eva's got a little bit of time to do some more prep for her tinfoil hat report. Jim was just talking about the gravity recovery on sluice. Now, let me see if I got it. Basically, the trommel itself is usually a bottleneck because the smaller the diameter, the less screening surface you have.
Right. So that's your limiting factor in yardage, where, you know, here in a 4-foot or 48-inch barrel, and let's just say a 4-foot screen, we're really limited at 32 yards an hour right there.
Okay.
Just because of the screening. This is also the number that this feed rate's effective in this box. If you wanted to try increase the maximum yardage, you know, per hour you're running, you'd have to jump to wider sluice boxes.
Yeah. Now, this hydraulic jump, basically you've got the slick plate coming to your riffles, and then it comes up onto the top of the riffles.
Well, no, you put a jump in and then back your riffles up to that, you know.
Okay, so basically it comes off of the slick plate over top of the riffles.
Yep, and starts, you know,
Okay.
starts over.
So the bottom of the box drops, but the top of the riffle is flush with the slick plate.
Well, I can draw this in basically. Let's just get rid of this.
Mm-hmm.
If we go, whoops, I'm gonna get rid of a piece
Yeah, I hate
here.
those.
If we, whoops, it's gonna have to be up
Here's
there. But okay, you know, that's our, we'll color that back. That's our first riffle. Right here, you put a hydraulic jump in. That's a 1-inch high piece of, let's just say that's 3/16 metal. The water up coming from your trommel has to be pushed up and over like that. So it's making that jump. You'll end up with a gold catch, almost like a nugget trap right there at the top of your box.
Okay, so this is your slick plate here at this
That's
elevation.
right. The slick plate's just coming in. It can be the box itself.
So your hydraulic jump is essentially just a vertical riffle with no overhang.
Yep, right. No
Okay.
overhang or anything on it. You just want to push it, the material into the slipstream. You know, you want to push it up into the stream.
Okay, so you're trying to push your solids up into the stream at that point.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you want a 2-inch spacing from the top. Go back to that for just a moment. You want a 2-inch spacing from that point of your top, that riffle, to the back of this riffle. This should be about 2 inches. If you narrow them up too much, you lose that vortice in your system. You need that low pressure spot in there to drop the gold down, you know, into the bottom of into your carpet or into your live crescent at the bottom of that riffle. So the research that was done in the Yukon, as well as the different things we've tried in the field ourselves, the 2-inch spacing from the front of the back riffle to the beginning of the next riffle, 2 inches seems to work out really, really nice. And you keep it from packing too much because you've got some carpet surface mat at the bottom there in that riffle. So your crescent stays working in your vortice. Computers. But I did a layout here of 2 different systems. And you can see by an ideal system, of course, is always going to take more water, and you should be able to increase yardage versus going to a system with, you know, having to drop to less water because of your recovery pond or whatever you're doing. You can do that with changing your boxes around. But you definitely want to have a system of expanded metal and riffles, or riffles and expanded metal. Just because that particle size in that gold, a 1 millimeter nugget, which is not, you know, that small little piece of gold, in a slurry, when you're doing yardage like we are, that can carry for 16 feet in that sluice box before it settles out. And a lot of guys don't realize that. You know, you see all your gold in the top of your box in the first foot or two and think, oh, yeah, we're doing pretty good. Look at all the gold we're catching. Well, the fact is yeah, you're catching gold, but what you're not seeing is the part that really can change the operation farther down the boxes. If you start watching these gold shows that are out, Gold Rush or whatever, start looking at the size of their sluice boxes. I mean, these guys, some of them are running as much as 30 feet of sluice box, and they're not. It's not so much the yardage they're running; it's they don't want to miss any gold that's going through that system. Terry, we're using the unbacked Nomad carpeting, the miner's moss, and I've tried all different things. And what I do is I run indoor-outdoor carpeting, the real fine mat, underneath my miner's moss. So that way, when you push these riffles down or your expanded metal, that's pushed down into your miner's moss so that there's no underflow. You don't want underflow under your riffles or under your expanded metal. If you can put your finger under that expanded metal, it's not down tight enough in your box. So that's why I went with real fine mat indoor-outdoor carpeting, the really cheap stuff. And then I put my miner's moss on top of it. And then when we lock our riffles down, whether it's expanded metal or riffles, when we lock that down, you can't put your finger under any of that expanded metal. And if I have to, sometimes I'll take a 2-pound hammer and go across the box and tweak some of that expanded metal just so that it fits the box tight. Because if you get an underflow, it takes away the whole effect of that crescent. Even in your expanded metal, when you shut your water off, you'll see a crescent at the bottom against the next, riffle. You'll see if them crescents are there and the carpet is still loose, the box is still operational. If you start to get a water flow, it'll scour everything and carries it down the box farther. Or in the case that you've got a short box, which is what most guys do, they don't want to spend any more money, you're dumping that gold right back into the hole. So you're defeating the purpose of being there mining to begin with.
Now, I got a question. How do you keep the expanded metal tight? Do you have like a little curve to it so that when you push the edges down?
Somewhat. And like I say, if I have to, I'll go in there with a 3-pound hammer and I'll put some temper to, flex to it so that I get that curve in there. Because you want it down tight on that matting, whatever you use. I mean, ideally, I like the miner's moss. It seems to be good to clean, fairly easy to clean. The indoor-outdoor carpeting, not so much, but what I've done in the past is at the end of the season, I'll take all that indoor-outdoor carpeting, dry it out really good, put it in a dry wash tub, and beat all the dust out of it. And you'd be surprised how much gold is in that, fine. I mean, we're talking fine gold. And then I'll burn the indoor-outdoor carpeting in the wash tub and then clean all that up. And then the next year I'll start with new carpet. Because that carpet underneath that miner's moss is pretty amazing how much fine particulate. It's like a filter in a vacuum. You get that fine dust. There's actually quite a bit of gold in that dust.
Now, how hard is it to get the carpet to burn completely?
Not that hard.
No, not hard. It burns up pretty good.
No,
okay.
Not hard. You can always add a little bit of wood to it if you have to, because the ash will still turn to powder.
Because I don't know if you're aware of this, but in laboratory stuff, they have what they call ashless filter paper.
Right.
For that thing. So you can dry it, burn the filter paper, and weigh what's left, and it's perfect. So
that is a good.
Okay, Dean, this is Jim. And
hey, Dean.
The reason you can't see me is I'm watching the computer and stuff, and it's kind of crowded here with the positioning of the camera. But Jim is a professional placer miner from up here in Montana. He's been doing it for about 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's why he's actually what you would call an expert.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'll try, guys. If you give me the questions, I'll try to answer.
Compared to most people, he's an expert on basically wash plants and stuff.
I came into it new at a point years and years ago, and I tried to learn why, each thing works, and then try to, finesse and get better at it all the time. So everything's a running test. I mean, every day is a running test. So if you start to pay attention, whether you're digging and understanding the ground you're digging, or you get to this point, and the recovery is a big part of it. I mean,
5 minutes.
If you're only recovering 70% of what you could recover, versus 90% of what's recoverable, that 20% in there could be a huge number, you know, when you're talking of, let's just say maybe you only run 10 yards an hour. Well, a 20% increase at the end of the season could be, 14 ounces of gold or something. That's a big number at, today's prices. So you really want to dial in your recovery, because gold mining is more about recovery than it is about running yardage. It doesn't matter how much yardage you can run if you can't efficiently recover the gold that's in the yardage.
Well, the other part is exploration. It's not how many tons you run; it's running the right tons.
Well, and
this getting good recovery.
And this is exactly the same way. This is no different than the hard rock. Is if you can define what you need to run and only run that material, your success rate just went up big time. If you start running like in placer, you start running too much overburden, you haven't segregated where the gold exactly is. Now it's costing, those yards are costing you money that there's no gold in it to begin with. Now you're just washing gravel for the fun of washing gravel. So this is not a business that, well, if we run more, we'll make more money. It doesn't work that way. You need good ground. You need to do your exploration right and your testing correctly. And then once you've identified exactly what it is you need to be running, you got a California sluice 2-pound B. Over and under sluice.
I think it's like an undercurrent, basically.
Yeah. Micro dream mat on the lower.
I'm thinking if you want to try it, give it a try and,
well, yeah,
and see what happens.
There's nothing wrong with that, Terry. The biggest thing that I see, and you could do it as a test if one of your buddies has another sluice box, set it underneath yours and just see at the end of the day, or if you're going to shovel for Saturday and Sunday, see if there's any gold in that lower box. Really pay attention to the micro gold that you may pick up on that lower box. And that's what a lot of guys, they just go, oh yeah, what we got's good enough. And we seem to be getting gold. We think we're doing okay. And it's like, well, what do you mean you think? I mean, it's like, no, where's the science in what you're doing? Because this is about recovery. You only want to run, if I can run 1 yard and get, let's say, a gram of gold, why do I want to run 2 yards and get a gram of gold?
Well, it's not just that. That whenever someone says, I think
right.
You're not thinking, you're believing.
Right.
I know is the operative phrase. You want to be able to say with confidence, I know what's going on. I know what I'm getting. You always have to check those tailings, check whatever you're throwing away, just to be sure. Because one thing I found in hard rock, it's probably a little bit more so than placer because there's more complexities involved,
right.
Is you don't know it all.
No,
nature will throw crap at you.
This is an industry that I don't care. You could be doing this for 60 years and you still will not know it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I will never say, well, I know it all. That is never going to happen, boys, because I'm constantly learning. I'm learning from other people. I'm learning when I go out on other job sites where we maybe do some testing for somebody else or within our own thing. And as I've done it over the years, I've gotten more efficient at figuring out how I can operate with like less water. How can I readjust my sluice boxes, still keep some yardage and use less water to get the job done? I mean, there's all kinds of variables, and every site is different because the amount of clay you've got or the amount of, let's say, compacted gravels that don't break up good. I mean, ideally a trauma works really well to break that up versus a screening plant. But either way, you want to be able to screen. And even if you're doing it by hand, if you can screen down to certain sized stuff, it can make a big difference on your gold recovery. Just by sizing your stuff down. If any of you have ran a blue bowl before, you know what I'm talking about, because if you size that, most of the particulates in a certain size range in that blue bowl, your recovery is fairly efficient. If you start mixing in bigger rocks and other stuff, suddenly it isn't working very good. This is
Yeah.
taking too much time.
Now, Patrick wants to know, how do we sell our gold? I'm generally working for other people, so it's not my gold. And so I haven't actually sold very much. Last summer, when I was ill, when they were replacing my aorta, I used it to kind of auctioned it off, so to speak. And that worked very well. By the way, thank you everyone for supporting me back then. But I keep what I have, except for that. It's a relatively modest amount. Now, Jim, on the other hand,
All right, to answer your question, there is refiners. Some of them are right in the California Mining Journal. There's refiners that will buy your gold and pay you fair assay value for it. You should be somewhere between 80 and 85% of full spot price, depending on your assays. Ideally, the more gold you have, the better they'll pay you on price without taking the higher dollar.
now when you say 80 to 85%, is that of the total weight of the material, or is that
That's
of
an
the
assay
value of the gold?
They'll try to keep 15%.
Okay,
So let's just say if you assay the gold and let's say it's 90% pure,
mhm.
because here we have a lot of that, right around
Right.
92%. They will pretty much immediately pay you 80%. Normally, the refiners, they'll pay you 80% of spot price right there. They'll assay it and then make the adjustment, which could be 5% or so. They'll always try to retain 10. Private individuals, I've had in the past private individuals that would buy, a couple ounces to multiple couple ounces from me. And in a lot of cases, especially if it was some nuggets or nice coarse gold,
Yeah.
sometimes I could get $100 over spot for that stuff pretty consistently. I mean, I could have 8 or 10 ounces of really nice gold that they would pay me $100 premium on, which I would prefer to do that. Some of it I've turned into jewelry. I've had a jeweler actually making earrings and necklaces and things for me. Just because I can get the increase in the value of the gold instead of selling it for, let's just say, $50 or $60 a gram. By creating jewelry and selling jewelry out, you can push that price to almost double, about $110 to $120 a gram.
Well, and that's why a lot of people
So-
sell pay dirt.
Right. Well, that's another way to do it is,
Getting full
put it
spot
back
for
in
it.
bags. Yeah. Figure out the grams that you can dump in bags of pay dirt and sell. I mean, there's so many avenues, but private investors or private guys actually is a good way. We do have a gold buyer here in Helena that will buy placer gold from this area. And he's pretty fair. I mean, the more gold you bring into him, the better the numbers get. So ideally, he likes to see you bring in 10 or 11 ounces, because then if he pours it in a bar to assay the bar,
Mhm.
he'll have for sure 10 ounces of gold. And he'll have a 10-ounce bar. And so if that's the case, he'll pretty much almost pay spot price.
Well, when I was working for a mining company, when we were delivering the gold to a refiner,
Mm-hmm.
of course, we were delivering it in like 30-pound bars. And they were only charging a couple percent premium for the refining
Mhm.
process. Although one thing he did tell me was, and this was the boss said, no matter how good your gold is, it's always got 1% impurities.
Oh, yeah.
If you take their bar, 99,999,
And
melt it down and cast it into what looks like a
back
Doré
as a
bar,
Doré bar, they don't.
it's
Yeah, well,
magically acquired
Well,
1%
well,
impurities.
they got to cover themselves. You can't blame them. I mean, you can't buy something for $20 and sell it for $19.50 and think you're going to make money.
Well, yeah, but the
you
thing
know-
is, they're already charging you a fee to do it.
I know.
But
I
that
know.
1% is kind of like their unofficial. And I'm wondering if maybe sometimes that doesn't go to like management unofficially, so to
Well,
speak.
who
If you know what I
knows?
mean.
Yeah, there's always an inside snake.
There's
on
something
everything,
going
but-
out there. Yeah.
But yeah, Patrick, that's actually the reality of it is 80% going through refiners or a mint. Some mints will buy the gold too.
Yeah.
Canadian mint, US, you can ship the gold and have it, refined you can actually pay to have it refined and get it back in 999 gold if you want.
Yeah, now that would be very useful if you had a reasonable amount of gold that you were making,
Right.
and you didn't want to pay taxes on it now. Then what you do is you have it
You
refined,
pay to refine it.
have them cast it into like their ingots, but and give it back to you in that form.
Yep.
And you don't have to pay tax on it. If, on the other hand, you trade it for some of their ingots, then you have to pay taxes on it.
Yep.
So I say there's sometimes reasons aside from just the pure immediate monetary, but it's a lot easier to sell rounds and bars and stuff with like Engelhard or Handy and Harmon 99,999 on it than
Yep.
it is Keith and Jim 99.999. It's not going to go nearly as quick, at least not to anyone with any brains.
When I was pouring Dory bars myself, I could pour a 1/4 ounce bar, I could pour a 1/2 ounce bar, a 1 ounce bar, and a 5 ounce bar. And ideally, by having the Dory bars, if I'd only try to sell what I needed for operating expenses, especially within the season. Now, at a certain point, yeah, you have to sell more to be profitable or to buy new equipment or something. But there is private people that'll buy Dory bars, so that they can worry about the refining if they want to refine it finer. I mean, we assayed some of my Dory bars just by melting it once, and had a very consistency 96% or 96.4% reading on quite a few Dory bars.
Yeah,
So-
Patrick. The refiners that I've seen online, the average right now is 80% of spot. So
That's
pretty much
kind
the
of a-
average for a refiner.
That's kind of a running. I mean, some of the guys in Alaska get
Good
like
evening, David.
85 to 87%. I've heard, they'll get a little higher number, but that's also a case that if you can bring in 10 ounces, you're going to get a higher number. If you're only going to send them an ounce or something, it's to them, it's not even worth their time to talk to
Hi,
you,
Mr.
really.
Lodak.
They want to see, value.
Mr. Lodak, I don't like Monopoly money either.
No.
When it comes to Monopoly, I always lose. That's all there is
But
to it.
I had a lot of private people that wanted it. If I had a bar, they wanted it. And in some cases, I could get, 100 over spot, which then it changes the numbers a lot, especially on my end, being the producer. If I can get a higher value than what the market says it's worth, well, why wouldn't I?
Oh, yeah.
Especially to keep buying diesel fuel every day. So, you got to hunt around, but once you've kind of set up some of those people, it'll grow on itself a little bit too.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to leave it to Eva here to bring you up to date
Howdy,
today.
howdy. Well, first of all, people, as you know, my favorite sources for getting information on normal things would be Seeking Alpha or moneymetals.com. But I've also been doing a whole lot of reading on Kitco because Kitco has a news section. And their news section always has extremely informative articles and videos about what's going on in the stock market, the mining market, and the metals market in general. So this week I was hanging out on Kitco as usual, and a couple of really people who were normally known as bullish for buying and holding gold are now beginning to hedge their bets and saying, well, drop your gold investment, but invest in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin thing is getting real interesting, people, because the Federal Reserve this past week, those kleptocrats out there in La La Land with the monopoly money, the Federal Reserve decided to hold firm on their current position vis-a-vis interest rates on treasury bonds, which at the moment are apparently running about 1%, 1.6%. The head of the Federal Reserve was saying that they're very much inclined towards starting a cryptocurrency because, well, they've come to the conclusion somehow. Now, I'm not following the logic here, but maybe one of you guys can explain it. I might be having an Alzheimer's moment or a blonde moment. But the head of the Fed Reserve that was talking and yapping in his little meeting was saying that Bitcoin is going through the roof because it's seen as a substitute or a surrogate for gold. Now, I don't know about you guys. I do have some Bitcoin, okay? I mean, wow. Now, that is a tale in itself that I won't go into because it's long and complicated. But I found one of my old Bitcoin wallets. I actually found out how to get into my Bitcoin wallet. And then it took me several days and several apps and a hell of a lot of frustration to get it into my current Bitcoin wallet. But when I found it, the last I saw it, it had like $2 value. It's now worth $80. And I was like, wow, I'll take it. I'm thinking of trading it to the bank and trading it for Monopoly money. Why not? Because then I can use the Monopoly money to buy silver. That's my goal here. But Bear said, well, leave it in Bitcoin for now. Yeah, leave it to Beaver. Believe it or not, Mr. Lodak, my nickname when I was a kid was Eva the Beaver because I have buck teeth. So, yeah, it's like, forget it. Mr. Lodak, I earned all my Bitcoin fair and square, clicking links and watching videos. 100 Satoshis at a time. Go figure. You can still do that some places. It's cool. But the Fed is really looking hard at the idea of the Fed coin because they said that since Bitcoin is now considered a hedge against inflation like gold, as Mr. Lodak correctly points out, and is considered in the same category as gold, the same people who invest in gold apparently might invest in Bitcoin, it shouldn't be left in the hands of unregulated people or the lowly masses or the untrained mob. So translation, we want it where we can actually manipulate the value because I'm sorry, this stuff, paper money is not connected to anything real anymore. Bitcoin is not even connected to something as real as paper. It is simply zeros and ones. I have nothing against Bitcoin people. If you can get a hold of a couple of $100 worth or a couple of $1,000 worth and you want to hold it, fine. I held it through the last huge boom when it went over 20,000 and then went right back down to 5,000. It's currently at 50 some odd thousand and I'm still holding on to it. And when it drops down to 2,000, I'll still have it. This is great. Okay. I'm in favor of Bitcoin because it is not owned by the Fed. So the Fed wants to make their own. If they make their own, obviously it's going to be highly inflated, heavily manipulated, taxed all to death, and they'll use it to spy on you, just like every other government program. But if they want to do Fed coin, that's fine. They're also saying that a lot of people might try starting their own private cryptocurrencies, as in investors like Elon Musk might get together and float their own. That's a possibility too. I would be more inclined to trust the private people than I would the Fed. But, that's just me. Now, Kitco also had a couple of interesting articles on the situation of gold miners and mining companies because mining company stocks, as I pointed out last week, are being very unpopular right now, despite amazing fundamentals, despite a burgeoning desire for physical gold, despite the desperate need for more physical gold and silver to cover all those naked shorts out there that are in paper metal land. Mining companies just aren't being very popular. Now, on one hand, the consensus of opinion is that if Lord Biden, the incoherent, manages to pump that $4 trillion infrastructure thing that he's been mumbling about lately, silver may well outperform gold in that in terms of silver mines because silver is far more used across industrial sectors than gold is. But according to Kitco, silver, gold, and copper right now are forming about a $4 trillion super surge, and they're ramping up and getting ready to get some good numbers. It is expected that by the end of the year, silver will have reached its current position, and GMX, the Gold and Metals Exchange Standard group of people, are forecasting that silver is going to settle in at a new bottom of 27, and they're looking at a new bottom of 1900 for gold. The banks are still saying it's going to be higher than that. And in an interesting little side note, an organization called GATA has been tracking the naked shorts in the paper gold and silver department for years and years now, trying to figure out actually how much extant physical gold and silver there is, since numbers just don't seem to make any sense in this department, and also trying to figure out where it is. So they decided to send a very polite email to the Bank of England and the people in charge of gold and silver in the British government, and they said, okay, so how much do we actually have, and have you been lending it to anybody in the last year, since the price seems to be doing some very strange things that would only happen if the physical assets were being loaned out to other people. And lo and behold, for some bizarre reason, the UK government decided that, as they said in the email, we cannot answer that question. Not we don't know, not we will not. We cannot. So one has to wonder about the language there as to why they cannot answer what is a very simple question. How much do we have? And have you been loaning it to anybody? They didn't say it was a matter of national security. They didn't say we don't know. They just said we can't answer that, and have a nice day. Cheerio. So that's how that went for the GATA guys. So they figured, yeah, that's pretty much a good indication that the UK, like several other central banks and governments, have been loaning their physical reserves on paper again. They're certainly not transporting them anywhere. Speaking of transport, there are reports out there floating around that we should see some sharp spikes in various metal and commodities prices due to something about a ship being improperly parallel parked in the Suez Canal. It's just some boring maritime thing. You know, Bear can explain it. I don't do ships. I just do tinfoil hats.
She says,
They claim the driver was a woman. It would not surprise me in the least. Okay, I have seen how some chicks parallel park. But at any rate, there are going to be a lot of short-term price spikes and short-term bizarre shortages in weird stuff, because every day that this ship is still stuck, it's disrupting multiple billions of dollars worth of shipping. And as of the other day, they had over 400 ships backed up waiting to get through there. Some of them are starting to go around South Africa, which will be a field day for the pirates on those particular shipping routes, I'm sure. The Russians put out a great ad campaign. I must say, the Russians put out a great ad campaign on Twitter here, talking about the top 10 great reasons to use the Northern Passage, the Arctic Passage, to ship things. Oh, it was amazing. You know, like reason number 10, we don't have dust storms. That kind of thing. Really, really well done. So great for the Russian marketing team. I don't think anybody's taking them up on it. Sad. Really sad.
Building
so
super
in other market news,
so it's a lot shorter.
There is still a tussle going on in GameStop land. Reddit is holding firm, and they are holding their GameStop. And anybody who can get a hold of GameStop, yeah, buy a share, diamond hands. That's the way it goes, because it's annoying the hedge fund boys, and the hedge fund boys don't like it when they're annoyed.
I think they're counting.
There have been some rumbles that the gold supply, the physical gold supply that's being held by a couple of holding companies, I believe one is called the Perth Holding Company. It is either the name of it or it is located in Perth, are apparently at historic lows right now.
They can break.
So it is possible that if this problem continues, there could be a squeeze on physical metals. If you can get them and keep them. Yeah, it's true, Terry. It doesn't move much. And one of the reasons it doesn't move much is because there's 19 zillion tons of it on paper running around that is utterly imaginary, just like the US dollar, and not backed by physical silver at all, and it is regularly manipulated. Governments have been actively manipulating and suppressing the price of precious metals probably since about the time most governments decoupled from precious metals backing their currency and went to straight fiat currency. But it is still the only actual money that is out there. A dollar bill is worth $1 because you and I both agree together it's worth $1. And Dollar Tree guarantees it's worth $1. Walmart believes it's worth $1. As long as everybody employs the same blind faith that the dollar bill is actually worth $1, then we're going great. However, that belief is beginning to crumble in the face of reality, in the face of the reality of inflation, both actual inflation, severe overproduction of money supply, too many pieces of paper running around, and also the visible symptom of inflation, rising prices. And that is only going to continue to get worse. The propagandists in Mini-True have been saying that we are going into a long economic recovery now, apparently. And so we can expect Fed interest rates on treasuries to stay stable. And as long as treasury interest rates are stable or rising, then gold is not going to go up in price and silver is not going to go up in price because people would obviously prefer to invest in the federal government than they would in a physical metal that they can hold in their hands. I tend to disagree with them on this issue. I'm sorry, if I'm given a choice between investing between the idiots in the five-sided booby hatch and the idiot in the Capitol and the idiot in the White House, or investing in a new piece of jewelry that's got about 3 ounces of silver in it, I'm going for more necklaces, people. I'm sorry. I want more necklaces. They can keep the idiot collection. That's just me, of course. Yeah, quiet in the background. The peanut gallery is speaking up over here. True prospector trip. In the current open market, it has a buying power of 92 cents. Yeah. The question is, what's it actually worth? I mean, if anybody's curious about this, I would advise you to sit down first. I would also advise a massive dose of tranquilizers, several stiff drinks, or whatever your sedative of choice is for after you are done vomiting and having a meltdown. You can go to debtclock.org. Debtclock.org tracks all the money in the United States. And down in the lower right-hand corner of the website page, the place that nobody scrolls down to and nobody really reads, is the part that says unfunded liabilities. I strongly advise no one to look at that number. Nobody. Now, mind you, during the last administration, during the Trump era, a lot of the numbers that are currently going up again at approximately 1/3 the speed of light were actually either holding stable or going down, like our debt to China, debt to several other places. But yeah, debtclock.org is a website that if you want to dig into the extent of the debt that each and every one of us sitting here in this country right now, at least those of us who are here legally and accounted for on paper, is the site to go to. It's also a site I would avoid if you're prone to deep depression, financial insecurity, or suicidal thinking, because it's darn depressing lately. You know, the dollar is only worth 92 cents right now because we all say it's worth 92 cents. The question is, how long can we keep fooling ourselves and saying it's worth 92 cents? The other side of that question is, how long is the rest of the world going to agree with us? Because right now, I think the only way to put this is they're agreeing with us because they like us, and until recently, we were the biggest kid on the block. Um, I think lately there has been a slight decline in the esteem in which the rest of the world holds the United States. As a matter of fact, some members of the Panda Patrol recently actually implied that we're no longer in a position to call ourselves the leading world power. But that's really just typical political grandstanding. I mean, sure, it's never been said before, but everybody has to say something the first time. Let's just hope that rumor doesn't stick and become a prevailing thought. But back to gold and silver, Bear has been very busy taking all kinds of things. And I am busy still painfully slogging my way through massive quantities of legislation, tracking down changes in the 1872 mining law. However, we did have an interesting discussion with a BLM lady this past week. And Bear asked her because up until this past week, according to settled law, Supreme Court law, the mining law of 1872, which is the law, and every prevailing source we could find out there, you cannot stake a placer over a load claim, not over a valid load claim. You can stake a load under a placer. Well, according to the BLM lady, of course, case law changes. Well, folks, there's a difference between case law and what the actual legislation says. Now, the biggest reference case on this matter was Cole versus Ralph. And in that case, the load owner had given the guy permission to look around for a placer because they were buddies, they knew each other. The placer guy, after deep investigation, said that there was no actual load there. So he staked his placer and he proved to the court sufficiently that the load claim was not a valid discovery. Therefore, his placer was good to go. And that is basically the only case in which it can actually happen according to the 1872 mining law. But as usual, judges have this habit of creating what's called case law. Case law may or may not have any relationship whatsoever to the actual legislation. So the BLM lady is going to be sending us some examples of case law, and I'm going to be doing some deep digging into that. Because one of the things we have to consider, especially with the push that the new administration is making, the profound changes to the language in all of the government websites, they've all become woke, okay? And we're talking so woke that it's ridiculous. Hollyweird is not as woke as our federal government. That is scary, folks. In light of all this, and in light of the fact that various special interests have spent a considerable amount of time and money getting activist judges on the various benches, witness the Ninth Circuit last week saying that the right to keep and bear arms does not include carrying arms in public or anywhere outside your home, by the way. In light of the fact that our justice system has been permeated with various forms of activist judges and activist lawyers, and legislative jihad, if you will, is being practiced, I'm going to be doing a lot of focusing on reading the most recent case law I can find for small miners and find out what's going on. Because more and more it is looking like our refuge as small miners may be in reactivating now inactive mining districts in our states, because those mining districts have significantly more congressional protection. They're not just the protections of the 1872 mining law. There are several other layers of law going right up to the 1970s that hold up and buttress those protections. And I haven't found any law yet that undermines them. So I just have to find out what regulations undermine them and do some digging in case law. Fortunately, I read legalese. It is exceedingly boring and it gives me gray hair and wrinkles, but you know, you do what you got to do here. Mm-hmm. A silver slinky. Well, that would be highly conducive to some interesting playtime, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dan. Well, I will turn you back over to the guys. And until next week, later, dudes.
Thanks, Eva.
A silver slinky now. Does that
Silver
mean
slinky.
keep the change? Is it? Anyhow,
I don't want to ask because Aussies are very strange.
okay. Mr. Lodak says thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Aura
Mr.
Pilot says bye.
Dan's there.
And Spectre Trip, Align President. Yeah. Minor 49er, thank you. Patrick Jones, that was great. Matt, thanks, Eva. Very good, yes, back and forth. David says, what a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Yeah, legislation reading is no fun.
Okay. Robert McIver says, nice info. The overall situation, of course, continues to, I don't know, get more chaotic,
Deteriorate.
destabilize, whatever.
Yeah,
Well, the Ninth Circuit was a real
destabilize.
eye-opener even for the Ninth Circus, okay? I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it,
So
that was just ridiculous.
I like the security of being in an industry where when things go all to hell, see you later, Matt. Take care. The worse things get, the more demand there is for your particular service. And so that's comforting in these times to some extent, as much as anything can be comforting. But yeah, the whole situation is getting pretty bizarre, but
So yeah, I agree. Trip.
we're not allowed to discuss that in any significance here, which gives you an idea how far we've gone.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyhow, we can only deal with the situation we're given and try to affect it in the way that we can effectively do so. There's talk of shipping some tourists up here because the paperwork just can't be done fast enough down there in the areas where they're coming into the country, and the locals here are not too happy with that potentiality. So we'll see what happens there. But don't be surprised if Eva and I are on the front lines there. The situation on the southern border is not stabilizing, nor will it, in my opinion, in the next short period of time, because I think the current administration has painted itself into a hell of a corner. There's no way, in my opinion, they can effectively deal with the situation without betraying their biggest supporters.
Yep.
They would have to get pretty intransigent. So they don't care how many people die on the way, how many women and children get put into sex slavery or anything like that. That's not their concern. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So expect that situation to continue to get worse.
Crazier and crazier.
I've got, my brother lives in Yuma. Tom is still in Tucson. So, if things get completely out of hand, I'll be able to let you know fairly well. But let's just say they're heading that direction fairly quickly. And Terry Curry says, bye, Wonderfoil. Yeah,
I thought it would be Tin Woman.
Yeah. He said Wonderfoil woman. But Yeah, I'm glad Terry's not in our, city here. I might have to keep my eyes open here. So anyhow, that's kind of the situation there. I'm a big fan of the precious metals in situations like this.
I'm a big fan of food and toilet paper.
And the situation up here in Montana is quite stable and calm, with the exception of the potential involuntary importation of people that we didn't ask for. Don't know what will happen there, but I'll let you know if something interesting does. Are there any other mining questions off the bat here? I've been doing a lot of prospecting, but I haven't been able to edit any videos, so I haven't been able to produce much. I'll have to take that computer. Theoretically, it's got the editing software on it now, and see if I can actually edit computers. Because as usual, because it has a new updated operating system, it looks nothing like the old operating system. And so it's like getting in a car and it's like, where's the controls? How do you turn on the radio? Or what, these modern vehicles, it's like, how the heck do you do that? It's like, why do they keep changing stuff? But anyhow, I should be able to up and be, editing videos here shortly. And I'm going to try and do one on how I actually go out in the field and stake a claim here the next time I do that. I've got it pretty routine.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple and stuff. I put in the 4 corner stakes of a claim the other day. From the time I left here to the time I got back here was about 2 hours. And so it's pretty routine stuff.
Dean, if you go back, we've done like 4 or 5, maybe 5 Sundays of stuff with Placer, and had some pretty good stuff. I don't know if were you able to ever reload that one?
I think all the stuff you were on.
We lost that first hour that one night, and it was a similar.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, no,
but we
couldn't find it.
I'm going to try to join him when I can. Lately we've being it's winter, we've had time to play this a little bit with Keith and I. I mean, I'm not trying to butt in on his
I'll
channel.
get that with
either.
you in a second, Glenn. Go ahead. Finish yours up.
But Keith and I, it's kind of interesting because he's really good with the hard rock and the recovery techniques and being a placer miner, and I'm into hard rock too. I think hard rock's really neat, but it's the things that have been able to play off each other and learn from each other is knowledge that we're trying to bring forward to some of the, you guys out there as you get bigger, or if you want to go into placer mining or hard rock mining. This is a good starting point because hopefully we can give you some direction. Feel free to get a hold of us, go through Keith.
Our experiences are pretty complementary. He's got a lot of actual field experience in placer mining, and in professional placer mining, not just prospecting. And mine is more in hard rock exploration and production, specifically in open pit heap leach mining. I do have some underground experience too.
Professional operations with plans and such.
Yep. Now, Glenn Capel, I think it is there a difference between rhyolite and metarhyolite and basalt and metabasalt? Yes. And it's a really simple difference. Meta means metamorphic. So if you have a basalt you had a lava flow and it's extruded onto the surface of the earth and it cools, and it's a basalt lava flow, and then it gets buried and it gets subjected to heat and pressure, then you now have metabasalt. It's been metamorphosed. Now, rarely would they call it just metabasalt, although they might, but they might. It's going to tend to change into other minerals, and then they will, talk about those. But metabasalt would be kind of a generic term It's basalt that's been metamorphosed. And the same with rhyolite. Rhyolite is a different kind of lava. Basalt is low in silica, and rhyolite is high in silica. The big flows that covered this part of the Pacific Northwest, a few tens of millions of years ago, were big, gigantic basalt flows from the mantle. And the Cascade volcanoes right now, those are rhyolite. The oceanic crust that gets subducted underneath the west coast, as it gets melted and turned into magma again, it has a lot more silica, and it explodes in rhyolite. Basalt tends to be fairly thin, and rhyolite tends to be very stiff and sticky, so you tend to get explosive eruptions with rhyolite.
Thanks, Robert, for that comment. And Dean, yes, definitely. If you get out here or before you come out, get a hold of us. I mean, if we're doing something in the field, or we can point you toward, someplace to prospect that's different than where you've been going, we can. Maybe you can go and join us for a day or two in the field somewhere. Keith or I, or
Terry, I'm thinking maybe next week we'll just go straight to Mondays. We've been having all these issues with the internet or whatever. I would think that no matter what the cause is, if it's not just my hardware, it should be improved on a Monday night. And so I'm thinking next Monday would be our first time on that. I might post a little video or notification or something, everyone, that, live stream is moved on Sunday. But I think maybe next Monday would be a good time to get into that. Pretty soon we'll be hitting the field. I'm guessing 2 to 4 weeks. And Eva and I will be out there out in the field. So this will give me a good chance to get my editing figured out and this, that, and the other. But we got a lot of work to do out in the field this year. Still waiting for the information from Montana Tech. So we're a little hold on that, but we got plenty of things to do in the meantime, and it'll be an interesting summer, that's for sure. Say right now I'm actually kind of doing a little bit of this, but I'm maintaining my energy and such, and the hiking has been doing good, getting me back in shape again. But I know that it's going to be a bit of a grind this summer, and that's fine. But there's no sense wearing yourself out before you really hit the bricks, so to speak. I'll have Eva with me, and that'll make things better too. But we will probably be out in the field somewhere 3 to 5 days a week. And that's true, Mr. Lodak. So that's basically plans. And I'm not sure what we're going to be doing specifically next week or whatever. I do have a mine to check out, get some samples from, and see about maybe staking it. And we shall see. By the way, to everyone there, you noticed that the gentleman, I forget your name, I'm sorry, that asked about metabasalt and meta rhyolite and things like that.
Glenn.
Yeah, when I'm doing these, I'm looking at all this information, and quite often there's geologic terms, minerals, things like that that I'm not familiar with, and I'll just have an extra tab, and all I'm doing is using Google to look stuff up, and it really does help. Yeah, Glenn, it really helps when I'm looking to look stuff up while I'm going along and doing these things. It's getting me much more familiarized with the geology around here and such. And it's a pretty easy way to do it, because you as you're looking at a particular area or a particular mine or whatever, and the terms come up, you just look them up.
Like
then,
those almond thingies today. Amygdalas.
Amygdalas. Yeah. And there's little clusters of phenocrysts in basalt. Phenocryst. What's a phenocryst? A rock particle or a crystal, so to speak. And so you have basalts. They have these little like flowery things with crystals in them.
And the glomerular whatchamacallits too.
Really, Glenn? Yeah, that's a shame. That's what we're here for. Whenever anyone's got a question, if you can't find an answer or you don't like the answer, if you're not comfortable that either the answer is correct or that it matches exactly your thing, yeah, that's what we like. We love those questions here. It helps keeps the conversations going. You're hoping to find crystals, Glenn. Okay.
So am I.
Yeah. Yeah, I say the meta is just an adjective, a prefix that means it's been metamorphosed. That's all. For example, around here, there's a lot of metarhyolite because you had volcanoes that laid down rhyolite, and then the boulder batholith was intruded
into
By
into
the
that
way,
and
meta
metamorphosed
means
it.
beyond.
meta.
Yeah, meta means beyond.
Not in geology.
Metamorphosized in geology.
In geology, it means it
But
didn't.
if you look at the literal meaning of the word beyond,
Well,
change.
Okay.
that would be true. I
Yeah,
guess.
Beyond
that's it.
rhyolite.
Yeah, it's been changed. Exactly. But as I say, we really like to get these questions because it really helps. Believe me, you're not the only person that runs into it. If you've got a question, you're not the only one.
Well, and yet when you start looking at mines and some of the geology in the area, you'll have geology reports that they'll go all over the place in there, and it's like, well, how much of this do I need to know? Because some of it really isn't pertaining to what you're trying to find. So you start, the more you do, of course, the easier it becomes to take out the information you don't need in front of you, because they start talking about different periods or different layers that if you were in the coal business or the oil business, those layers might be important to you. But if you're looking for gold or silver, they're non-event for you.
Yeah, pretty much all of the minerals were put in there in like the last 50 million years or so from the intrusion of the boulder batholith forward. But there's the Belt Mountains over there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 1.4 billion years old.
Well,
You
even
know?
the Rocky Mountain
That
frontier has, was old, and then it was somewhat collapsed, and then it was regrown again to a certain extent. And then you had the erosion events that have brought them down 3,500 feet, 3,000 feet again. So you had multiple rise and fall of the mountains themselves over a long period of time.
Yeah, down here you had some glaciation
Yep, that
Also
plays into this side of
fairly
it.
recently from a geologic
Yeah.
standpoint. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to me to read these geologic reports and stuff. And they have each mining district or whatever, there will typically be the geology of this district. And so that helps get me a little based, and then go to the particular mines and this, that, and the other. But it's
It's
really nice.
It does pay to really focus on a specific area. It might be 50 square miles or 250 square miles, but it does pay to, really put your effort on an area and then try to dial in of where, what are the possibles? Where should I be looking? And then if you can put those, like we were talking about earlier in the show, if you could put those trends, why there's mines where they are, or why the placer is what, the drainages that had gold are where they are, you can start to understand, and it gives you places to go look for maybe a whole new discovery.
Okay, Ethan, things seem to be working fine now. Don't know why, because I don't know why they screw
Cross
up.
your fingers.
But usually once it gets this late, we don't usually have too much problems.
Sometimes later, no.
It's usually right around that 7 to 8 o'clock time local here,
Yeah,
which also indicates something external to us.
We'll try the Monday
Yeah,
and
we're gonna
just see. That might be the key to this whole thing.
Yeah, we're gonna do the live stream next Monday instead of Sunday. And partly because of the technical issues, but partly because Eva's got a job on Tuesdays now. So we always need to be back in town by Monday evening, and that will make it a nice, consistent thing. So I really can't think of anything else that much at this point.
I don't, I kind of figured if I went over, just gravity recovery a little bit. And I mean, if you guys want more information on that, come up with the questions and I'll go into whatever subject somebody can, come up with a good question for.
Yeah, Patrick, I think that's basically a lot of it. It may not just be the internet in general, but also right here
Sunday night
at this hotel, we got a total of 13 rooms running probably off of 1 or 2 routers. And that might be the issue also. I just don't know, but we're working to get it fixed. And I'm also, I say, we've got the new computer, so I'll see about the editing videos. I'll probably just edit something really short just to see how it works and everything. But I mean, I can't even find files on that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
but once you start into, you'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out eventually. But it's like, it'd be nice to have somebody who knows how. Eva's cursing at it, which is
she's better than me.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I
I'm
think
not
so
into
too,
the
Patrick.
computers that well either.
Yeah. So anyhow, we'll get that, and this week I'll also be working on finishing up those plans. So you guys that are interested in the plans, I think I'll have something ready for you next week. It's been a little longer than I would have anticipated, but I think it'll be a good quality thing. How does methane gas affect gold deposition? That I do not know. I know carbon, for example, if you have a shale with carbonate, the carbon will tend to precipitate the gold out of solutions. But it's a standard thing that carbon itself likes to absorb gold ions, not atoms, ions.
Yeah.
And that's why they use activated charcoal in cyanide leaching to recover the gold from the leaching solution. Methane itself, I'm unaware of any direct relation there.
Yeah, I'm not sure about methane either, but definitely the carbon. I mean, like, Keith was saying, if you've got a slate carbon anomaly in a mine or alongside of a mine, sometimes you can have some actually substantially coarse gold.
Yeah.
The 16-1 mine in California, actually, there was some big slate formations within that mine. So it wasn't always the quartz they were looking at. It was the border of the slate.
Well,
and that's a good mine because there's history on it that you can read, read the geology.
Nick Zenter from for the Central Washington University, whatever, had one on the Liberty mine.
Yep. Yeah,
and that same thing.
It's real coarse chunks of gold.
Yeah, again, it's associated with the slate.
And there's some of that here. As a matter of fact, I know one mine that has got a really nice slate formation in alongside of it, and it was mined for the copper, which is somewhat off of the gold. The copper ore was still running 3/4 of an ounce of gold per ton in the copper ore, but the geologists that were in the mine in the 1950s told the guys, you guys really ought to just run a drift to the right here somewhere because the gold anomaly that should be here could be huge. And they're like, well, what the hell would we want to do that for? Gold's only $35 an ounce. So they never did it. So it's still sitting there, and the geology reports from the 1950s are right there with it. And I'm like, how come nobody looked at this? And it's one of them things.
Peoples is stupid.
Well, mining, the problem is mining for the most part died off to a certain extent, especially prospect mining like, we're doing, kind of died off. There's a generational gap in here of like 3 generations of people that know nothing about mining.
Well, it's not getting any better.
I got to go find an old guy that's 90 years old to ask him a question. And I tell you what, since I've been in Montana in the last 10 years, some of my old guys I was going to aren't here with us anymore.
Yeah, and there's not new
Unfortunately,
ones.
their tape
coming in.
measure ran out. And now it's like, okay, now who do you talk to? Because even some of these geologists that you talk to, they're clueless. I mean, they went to school to study rocks, but until they get the bigger picture, they don't know any more than you and I and, a few of us do.
Well, in the mining business, when I was there, one thing I understood by the time I got out was that just because somebody is in a position of authority and gets paid a lot of money doesn't mean his head isn't so far up his ass he hadn't seen daylight in months.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous sometimes how dumb people are.
Well, Glenn, if you go back in some of our shows, we've talked about that, just because if you're on, especially here, if you're on a lot of these placers here in Montana, the sources of the gold were never found. They mine these drainages. Some of them, they mined millions of dollars worth of gold out of these drainages at $16, $20 gold, and nobody found the source. It's like they weren't even looking for it. And
Well,
I'm
did they
sure
ever
somebody was, but the possibilities that exist are huge. And if you can look at it from a bigger picture, if you get on a drainage and you're playing around finding gold, and if you've got the time or the effort or the ambition, try to start tracking down, what changes in the drainage, what rock profiles change along the sides or in the creek, on the piles. And if you're able to find that source, you could be onto a lot of gold that's right there in front of you.
Yeah, Confederate Gulch, for example.
Yeah, that's a good one. But
did they ever find the stuff in Last Chance Gulf where it came from?
Yeah,
It
when you
seems to me
get up,
they had some
when you get up
speculation
Grizzly
on it.
Gulch here, there was some hard rock mines up
Yeah,
right
but
above
that's a
town here.
lot of gold.
Well, this rhyolite flow right here behind out the window here.
Yeah.
If you go to the other side or you go west a mile and start looking at the gravel changes in the color on the hillsides, you'll start to see that. And if you were to follow that trend or faulting, it could be full faulting. Once you start to understand places to look, there's a lot of things that nobody's dug in a lot of these places. And even if it's on private land, you talk to the landowner, find out who has the mineral rights, of course, but you talk to the landowner and cut a deal with him. And I can go into some contract stuff some night if guys are interested in that, because private land actually could be advantageous at this point when we're dealing with this federal government and this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Private land right now could be the best opportunity going if you can go up on somebody's pasture land and find a source of gold and offer that landowner 10% of whatever you pull out of there, or some something that it's not necessarily fronting money. There's opportunity all around us. It's a matter of trying to understand what the opportunities are and finding the opportunity.
Yeah, well, by the way, Rob Reppin is here. He says, I am the Liberty Mine.
Are you, Rob? Well, thanks for being here.
Yep. Hot hydrothermal solutions react with carbon-containing shales and produce methane gas, which helps to precipitate the gold. I'm trying to understand how.
Oh, he's the guy that guy on the Washington live stream was talking about.
See, Rob, you already know more than we do. So, this is a two-way street. We want to learn too. So
I totally want to come up there one of these days, because I was watching that guy's lecture from Washington State University, Nick Zenter, and I would love to see the Liberty area. I'm interested in the blue agates.
I'll write that down, Rob, and ask some of my guys.
These guys like the wire gold.
I mean, I've got some connections with big guys that maybe one of my geologists or somebody I work with can, give me a little heads up or in a way to look that up.
Might I suggest that you also talk to some guys that work with actual petrochemical mines and methane and stuff like that, because they often need to know something about geology.
So one of my geologists has worked in the gas business and that. So maybe my guess is that, like Keith was saying earlier, it's the carbon more than it's the methane. But I mean, I could be totally wrong, so I'm not going to swear to that.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't have sufficient knowledge.
Oh,
Patrick,
so
everyone
what?
around me thinks I'm crazy for what I'm doing. I've been told the gold is all gone. Well, you know, when everyone thinks you're crazy, they don't get in your way.
Right. That they're not out there playing. I'll tell you what, Patrick, to be
Go ahead.
honest with you,
We're welcome anytime, little one.
there's a lot of people
Can we get up there before our sea starts?
that have
here?
used this
Field trip?
quote that only 3% of the gold in the world's been
Oh, no.
mined. And I would almost say that I would believe that, because even for the money that come out of these drainages as placer, the hard rock stuff was never found. The sources that, the mother lode stuff was never found. And usually in a hard rock position, if it's a good hard rock mine, it'll far outproduce the 3 miles of placer that were below it.
And the other thing I
So-
noticed,
There is a lot of gold to be found out here in all these different western states, and a lot of it's never even been found as far as where the source is or where it's actually at.
the other thing I noticed, Jim, when he was reading the reports today on earlier today or yesterday on Helena itself.
Yeah.
They said that because so much of the stuff had to be shipped to Wales,
Yep.
they only took the highest grade
Grade,
stuff out.
and
which
that is
means
true.
that right underneath these buildings,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
probably
This
a
could
lot of moderate to good grade.
There probably is. And you'll find that, though, even if you go back to Charlotte, North Carolina, or back to the Black Hills or anywhere,
Yeah.
there's more gold to be had by far.
Oh, absolutely. You are not crazy, Patrick.
No, that's a good comment, though, because, I remember, this is kind of funny, but I remember when I told my dad I was packing up, getting out of Minnesota and selling my equipment, and I was going gold mining. He looked at me cross-eyed like, I just fell off the turnip truck.
Yeah, well,
And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, I got to go out for a meeting to Butte to the Bureau of Mines for 3 days. Why don't you come with me? And he went, yeah, I think I will. Because he honestly wanted to figure out whether I was crazy or not. And it was pretty hilarious because he really thought I jumped the rail on that one.
Yeah.
To go from gravel mining to gold mining. And he said, isn't all the gold gone? And I said, not from what I'm learning.
They
Yeah.
will think you're crazy until you flash a 10-carat nugget.
yeah, Patrick,
10-ounce nugget.
an USGS report in the area I'm in said that 85% of the resources are left. Don't tell anyone.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're trying to help you guys as miners as much as we can, or to, even if it's to be successful on Saturday with the grandkids or whatever, if you can go out and get in a place where you can maybe pan some gold or high bank some gold or metal detect some gold, great. And it's a matter of learning an area is really what it kind of comes down to, and listening, listen to what read the publications, anything you can find on that area. And you're going to increase your success rate again and again and again, the more you learn.
Jeff, how exactly were they breaking the carbon down to get the gold out of them? Were they oxidizing them or whatever? Or was it physical milling? I mean, I would think that would probably be pretty fine milling there. So if you got any details on that, I'd appreciate it. I think in Carlin ores, one of the problems was they had to oxidize the carbon so they could dissolve the gold without the carbon just reprecipitating it right
carrying
then.
it right back out.
Yeah. But yeah, Stephen, I agree. I like being in the field. Eva likes being in the field.
Road trip Liberty next
Well,
week.
I mean,
I don't think we'll be able to make that little.
I've always said when I can be outside
we'll
in
have a
the
lot of
sun
time
and on a
next winter.
mountainside and nobody around me for miles or tens of miles. I mean, how much better can your office get?
Rob says anytime, Keith. Because I said you'd like to get there this spring, and I said I'm thinking more likely next fall after the season.
Can I go?
I'm thinking in 2 weeks we leave our.
I would like to see that.
Is
mine,
Rob invited
I mean,
too?
Yeah, I've
I mean,
heard a lot
Jim
about
is-
it.
I'm thinking 2 weeks fair. We leave on Tuesday afternoon after I finish my work. We go there and we come back on Sunday.
We'll see, little one. I think it's a little bit quick here.
It's only in Washington. It's like practically next door.
Yeah,
It's
6 to 10
it's-
hours if you have a car that
it's
goes
a ways
70 miles
over
an hour.
delivered. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a ways over.
Yeah, it's
from here, 10 hours, probably about 10 hours.
probably about an hour and a half or 2 hours from the ocean. Anyhow, what's the difference
Iron
between the iron oxides, limonite, hematite, and those types of things? Okay, limonite is the one of the breakdown products of iron pyrite when it oxidizes. Technically, the mineral that's formed, there's a difference between a mineral and a chemical. The mineral that's formed from the oxidation of iron pyrite is technically known as goethite or gaethite, Goethite. It's formed as a mixture of hematite and limonite. Hematite is iron oxide, and that can be a ferric or a ferrous or a combination of those. They're all hematites. Typically, natural iron is 50% ferrous and 50% ferric oxide, if I'm not mistaken. And limonite is mainly an iron sulfate. I think it's a hydrated iron sulfate.
Correct.
But the hematite will tend to be red or black, depending on whether you're looking more at ferrous or ferric.
Mm-hmm.
And the limonite has kind of an orange yellowish color to it. And you're invited too.
Yeah, I see
Jim.
that. Thanks, Rob. If I can get there, I'm coming.
Okay. Maybe
Oh,
he'll
we're
take
going.
his truck.
Well,
We'll
yeah,
see.
we could.
2 weeks.
But anyhow, so that's basically it. There are different forms of oxidized iron, but the limonite is definitely got sulfur in it. That comes from the iron sulfide, the pyrite. Now, a lot of the hematites in the world came from, what was it, about 2.5 billion years ago, whenever plants started photosynthesizing, and we're talking oh man, I hate getting old. Phytoplankton. When they started producing oxygen, the iron that was dissolved in the oceans became iron oxides, which are relatively insoluble, and started precipitating out, leaving these huge, what they call banded iron deposits, which are the primary source of iron ores around the world.
Your hematite will be closer to iron ore.
Yeah, and those are all hematites, not limonite in there. So that's basically the difference between the two.
I mean, in a mine, you're going to see it more as a banded red rock most of the time, red to black, and it'll almost strike like iron.
Yeah.
So it'll almost like iron ore.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff Bybee, milling physically, I think. One of the problems with just milling a gold ore where they had carbon precipitating is if you don't oxidize the carbon, then it can reprecipitate the gold out of the solution too. So that's, let's say, in the Carlin situation, I know they were having some problems with some of the ores, the high carbon stuff.
Stripping the carbon. Yeah.
They had to set it off to the side because it required special treatment. And gold accumulation of plant matter that was originally put in water. Yeah, that would make sense. You got sedimentary materials that had carbon in it. Carbon will precipitate gold. I'm sure Rob knows a lot more about that than I do. That was not something I ever actually dealt with professionally. It just, ancillary sort of stuff. Whereas he has been dealing with a situation where that's exactly what happened. He's got a actually world-class mine in terms of the specimens and stuff that come from there. It's really an extraordinary ore body there. So that's something pretty special.
I sent you some pictures.
Yeah, limonite or goethite. Say the goethite is basically oxidized iron sulfide, and it will have some hematite and some limonite in it. It will typically be called limonite, even by geologists at times, because of that.
Yeah.
But technically, it's goethite, or it can be pronounced gaytite also. But which is different from a tight gay. But anyway.
Bear. Bad bear.
Yeah. Anyhow, and by the way, Pat, Eva thinks she might want to go see who was that guy? One of the blue collar comedy tour guys is going to be in town, so she thought she might want to go to that instead. So, thank you very much for all the help. I appreciate it. Anyhow, yeah, I say Rob has a very, very extraordinary mine over there. It's probably even more than the 16-1, I think.
You very well could. I guess I'd have to go back and reread. I mean,
They've got
over the years, I'm always reading and looking and digging, and
they've got extraordinary crystalline specimen gold.
oh man,
Well,
It's
if,
really,
if
really
he
pretty
has,
stuff.
if Rob has a place he can take me where I can get a piece of blue agate, that would be very nice.
She wants a piece of blue agate, Rob. So.
They can have the gold. Wire gold is very pretty. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
I
man.
think the stuff you've got there is
any gold
absolutely
is any
gorgeous.
gold is pretty.
Anyhow.
However, it's not blue agate.
Facebook has a group just for identification. I would send them a stereo pair with a color reference. Well, that's nice. I don't think Patrick's has the equipment to do that, but yeah. A 1-ton coin, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
that'd be
That's not exactly pocket change. Wow.
How big?
One ton.
at the Perth Mint.
I don't know. It's about a little less than 2 cubic feet.
That's what I was asking.
Cubic foot's, I think, 1,200 pounds. Divided by 20 equals, divide by 2,000. But my calculations are not incorrect. Over here in Last Chance Gulch, about 1.5 miles down the road, they recovered about 400 tons of gold from the placers. $16 million back in the 1800s.
You're right, Terry. Although, if you find the right vein, you may be right on gold. I mean, I've seen one where these husband and wife were mining just a little edge of this quartz vein, and he was doing the drilling and pulling the rock out, and she was sitting there chipping the gold, and the gold was like 2 layers of tinfoil on the edge. And I thought, how cool is that? Literally peeling the gold off the edge of the quartz. And it was just this little darn seam.
Specimens,
Well,
don't mess it up.
Well, they were just getting the gold. They were making a living taking the gold. And
Let's
I
sell
would
it.
have went for specimens because
Yeah,
that might have
hell yeah.
been worth more money. But
A lot
I mean,
more.
there's some of the things I've seen, you just stand there and go, wow, it's real.
Yeah,
It is real.
it does happen. I've actually. How much gold have you held in your hands at one time?
I think one nugget that was like 52 ounces.
I can beat you. Now, it wasn't my
Sure.
gold, just like
No,
that.
this wasn't my gold.
40
either,
pounds.
but and then a friend of mine had a 27-ounce nugget one day that looked like a cow pie. That was damn pretty too.
That's some good shit.
Yeah, that was like, I wouldn't have showed that to me. And he said, you're the only one who's seen it. And I said, I wouldn't have showed that to me.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have shown that to anybody.
yeah. So I've
Couldn't even
Well, that's a good question. What's the most gold anyone has actually
be
held in their hands in our audience tonight? I'm at 40 pounds. We're making a delivery to a refiner. And you're at, what, 47 ounces?
52 ounces.
52
I think it was, the
ounces.
one.
Okay. Rob can probably beat us.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he can probably laugh at us, but
I've held a 1/10 of an ounce gold coin. Does that count?
It counts, but
yeah, it's gold.
I've actually got, I think it's a 1 gram ingot from Goldfields Mesquite. As a matter of fact, if you'll cover for just a minute,
Oh, yeah.
I may have it here.
Should
Well,
have.
that's, you know, that's, I don't know, the more you're in this business, I mean, you do get to see ounces from guys that are mining, and some days, some of these guys, if they'll let you, you know, see their operation, it's kind of impressive to, you know, to see the amount of gold when they do a cleanup, or it's pretty neat. It does exist, and a lot of opportunity still exists within the drainages that are, you know, here that were mined. The efficiency in the old days of some of this mining was less than 50% efficient. Well, you know, at a low gold dollar, you couldn't remine it, but at the values we have currently, you know, $1,750 an ounce.
Hope you didn't sell it.
If you could zero in on an area that was inefficient, and that could even be tailing piles, if you could zero in on that, the effort could very well be worth the, you know, the operation. And it's back to the testing and making sure before you pull the trigger on something. But there is opportunity.
I'm almost done with Wilbur's new bed.
Cute. I think it is in Tucson.
You hit it. He
No,
hit
it's-
it. He's like me. You put it somewhere where you won't lose it.
We had another safe in Tucson. And because it was so small in terms of value, in terms of gold, but in the,
Little grant.
I mean, it was in a little sign that said, "Thanks a million," because it was the millionth ounce commemorative little
Grant,
thing.
everybody got a gram that was.
Everyone got a
working
gram
day or
that was
whatever.
working there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I thought, well, that's got to have some kind of value later.
Yeah, now that the mine's open again.
Yeah, Glenn, you do have to put in effort, but if you do it, you know, in a semi-scientific way of researching an area, and if you go back and watch some of our earlier videos, Keith and I kind of went over this, then go to find all the geologic information from Bureau of Mines or the local college that has a geology department, U.S. Bureau of Mines, a state Bureau of Mines. As you put the information together, then you get on the ground. And we went over this, I don't know, probably a month ago maybe, and start to visualize, especially if you're looking at old workings or an old, let's say, a placer drainage. What were their limitations? What could they do? What couldn't they do? Were they able to get to full depth? There's a lot of questions there that you got to start figuring out answers for. When you do, all of a sudden, you can put an X on the map that right there is a test hole. And if it reads right, there could be 5 acres of this right in front of us. I mean, you could have 1 or 2 or 10 years worth of work right there in front of you.
One thing I want to do sometime this year, and maybe after the summer, depends on how busy we are, how soon, is I'm going to try and go through the procedure that I've been doing now. I'll pick someplace other than
Where
in
you're
our
working.
target area.
Right.
And I'll go through some of the records and show, okay, this is how I look through the records to find a likely prospect, and then go and search to see whether or not it appears to be claimable. Although that's not necessarily, I mean, if it's a good mine and it's on somebody's patented claim, they may be happy to work a deal with you, but that's not what I've been looking for now. And I mean, I've been, let's see, just particular, I'm not going to give particular names. Here's a mine,
Hey, smoking.
3 ounces gold, 1 ounce, 3 ounces silver, 1 ounce gold, total of 5 tons production. Another mine, 157 tons of production, 1 ounce silver, 1.7 ounces of gold.
That would be an interesting.
Yeah, I can't find them though, because they were so small, I can't find them in the records anymore.
Well, if they had that much production, there's got to be a tailings pile on a hillside.
Yeah,
in
but
that area.
I mean, literally, I got
Right.
50 square miles to look.
Oh, okay.
You know.
So you can't if you can't zero in on it.
Yeah, I don't
If you
even
can-
have a section.
Yeah, if you can zero in, on a section or some kind of coordinate old map, then you might have a chance.
So here's one, 15 tons total production, 3 ounces per ton gold, 19 ounces per ton silver. Well, that's a decent mine, you know. And if I could find where that was on the ground, now it may have just been a little pocket, but that's a good, you know, that's something to interest. And it's small enough that it might likely have been lost in history. You take something like, I love this one, the Big Dick mine. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think it's Elliston District or whatever, but anyhow, it's so big, you know, it had, you know, tens of thousands of tons of production. Well, that's not going to get lost in the shuffle. You know, as a matter of fact, it's probably on patented claims. In this area, it's almost certainly on patented claims.
Bob, that's true. A lot of the
Hi, Smoking.
mines that they're mining are, minimal
That's pretty good,
grams
Terry.
per ton. And there's mines that exist out here that were
See you again, Dan.
an ounce or 2 ounces, like Keith just said, 1.7 ounces.
See you
for
again,
gold.
Dean.
And they quit mining them because $20 an ounce, the production costs were more than the gold they were taking out, so they walked away from it. And those still
Get
exist.
with you in a second, Pat. Yeah, that's a good find, Terry. Let's see. What are some of the resources you're using to find information? Okay. You're pretty much going to have to go to the mining bureau or whatever to find information on mines. There's lots of other geologic information. That a U.S. Geological Survey has done a lot of work on this. The U.S. Bureau of Mines for many, many years kept a lot of records on a lot of mines, and you can go to the internet, for example, if you have a mining district, okay, and just Google that mining district you're interested in.
Yeah.
And then look at the various things that come up when you see U.S. Geological Survey publication such and such, mines and mineral resources of the XYZ mining district. Click on it.
Yep. There's your start.
And then you can go through that and look at the various things. And once I just have a piece of paper, it's easier for me than a computer. I write the mine name, the location in terms of what section it's in. If you don't know what township, section, and range is, you're going to need to learn. The cadastral survey is how everything is recorded in the past, not GPS. Okay. Then I will, because it's usually in a PDF, and up at the top of there, there's a page. It says on page, I'll write down the page number so it's easy to find in the future. And then some notations on it. Then from there, I can take my list and call up like My Land Matters or Montana Cadastral, things like that, and go, okay, it's in this section. Oftentimes it'll give me a quarter section or a quarter of a quarter. This latest one, it's giving me quarters.
So you get really close then.
So it gets you, it's like, it's within this one, what is it, 1/4 of a mile square?
Yep.
Yeah, 1/4 of a mile square. And I'm looking at these things, and first of all, you can see what is the land. It's all BLM land. Okay, that's good. Then you look on like My Land Matters, and it will tell you, are there any active claims in that section, either lode or placer. I click on that. It gives me the listing data from the BLM. And if, for example, I'm looking at the Jim mine, okay, and I go there and I look at the claims, it says Jim lode. It's like, okay, it's probably been taken. But it's not a guarantee. But since we already, you know, my principal here already has other stuff, other irons in the fire, we're only looking for the juiciest sort of stuff. We're not looking for good mines that are on somebody else's patented claim or anything like that. We're looking at high grade mines, you know, more than 1 ounce per ton gold, more than 20 ounces per ton silver, or better yet, both. and that are currently on unclaimed government land. Okay. If it meets all those three criteria, then we consider going out and staking it.
All right, Patrick, if it's an old mine that you own there, you're a patent, I'm assuming. Yeah, patent claim. Go to the Historical Society. Look up old newspapers from, let's just say, 1868 to 1901. And look for any information, because a lot of times the local papers had a geology section of who was mining and what mines, and that may help you to track down like a name of the mine once you can figure out from the information. Go ahead,
Okay.
Keith.
If it is a patented claim, it had a mineral survey on it.
Yep.
That mineral survey is recorded in
With the deed.
Washington.
Yep.
You can go to the Bureau of Land Management, and I forget what the name of the thing is. Let me look it up here real quick. No, that's not the one. The BLM GLO, GLO Records. It stands for, I forget what it is, but anyhow, GLO. And it's the master file that the BLM keeps from all these old records. Chris Georgie taught me that one. And every patented claim has a mineral survey number. Okay. So this is a mineral survey. It's essentially a serial number.
Yep.
You should be able to look it up and get the original claim name, etc. on that.
Because then, if you have the original name of the mine, you might be able to go on diggings.com or one of those.
Yep.
And pull up
Hey, Mr.
information
Fang.
within the geologic report of that mine that somebody may have wrote in 1933 or something. And you may be able to get some really good information without reopening the hole or looking or something.
I've been getting stuff from the 1800s.
Yeah, oh yeah, there was
Yeah,
geologists.
it's amazing.
USGS did send guys out to just go to mine, talking to the miners and documenting what they were doing. They didn't bother them like they do nowadays. They just were asking questions like, in the placer, how deep to bedrock? What are you finding? What has changed over the year? They made notes. And some of this stuff exists if you can figure out how to find it.
Yeah, Patrick, say the BLM.
The
if you've
number.
got that,
Yep.
that mineral survey number, that should correlate with some stuff. Also, go to your county assessor's office.
Yep.
They should have all the records on that parcel,
Or tell you where to get them.
like for quite a ways.
Yep.
Exactly. And so it may take you back to a certain period of time, and then you may have to go to somebody else. But all these records are supposed to be kept indefinitely. So unless like the county recorder's office is burned down or something like that, theoretically you can search this stuff. Now, a lot of it is not searchable on the internet yet, but that doesn't mean you can't look it up.
Research it. Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, we had to go to Townsend to
Yep.
get some information because they don't have it on the internet yet.
Nope.
They've got it on their searchable database, but that database is not searchable from the internet.
Yeah.
Go figure. So, yeah, I say the county assessor's office is supposed to know who owns every square foot of the county and keep records on that sort of stuff. The county recorder's office will also have a record trail for that.
Argonaut, I can answer that question you got there. In 1992, Bill Clinton defunded the patent office and destroyed the Homestead Act for Alaska.
Yep.
And the reason they did it was they didn't want people homesteading in Alaska. That was the reason. It wasn't really to close down the patenting, but basically at that point put a moratorium on patenting mining claims, like you say, as to the 1872 mining law.
Interesting little aside on that. the BLM lady that I talked to the other day,
Yep.
they're still working to clear the backlog of patent applications that was stopped
In
decades ago because
1992.
there's nobody who's assigned to do it. It's basically done as, well, have you got anything else to do? No, well, dig in that pile there and see what you can do.
Well, some mines, you know, like the Stillwater here in Montana, the big palladium mine, they've been able to patent land. But first of all, they have a whole building full of lawyers to fight the federal government to
And
make
pile the money.
to make it happen. So yeah, it's a money issue. But one of the last pieces of land I was on that I was mining, placer mining on, the guy had got that patent in 1991. He actually filed for it in 1981, I believe, or 1980. It took 11 years and 3 mineral surveys because every time they came out there, they were trying to not find gold. And every time they dug a hole, it got better. So they kept trying to, well, we need to do another survey, and we need to do, and they tied him up for many, many years, and it cost him a lot of money. But he did get it patented finally, and it was, you know, it was worth patenting. But
Len, I believe that's correct. I believe the election was in 92. Yep. Clinton got elected in 92 and started in January of 93.
I think it was, I believe, if, you know, and I could be wrong, don't quote me to that exact moment, but I believe it was in 1992, they defunded the patent office right away.
It might have happened during Bush. It wouldn't surprise me that much. Under Reagan, it would have surprised me.
Yeah. No, they were trying to open
Bush
stuff up
Bush
under
was
Reagan.
what we would call now deep state. He was
Yeah.
professional bureaucrat.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, the election was in 92. Yeah, the problem with the government is it doesn't matter what the law says. It matters what the judges do.
Well, or
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna be reading
whichever,
Pedro.
you know, the political wind changes it.
Yeah.
They don't go to Congress and
You
actually
notice-
change the law. They just go around the law.
Yeah,
You know,
might have
as
noticed that.
we've been seeing that lately in every direction.
Yeah.
And, you know, Congress sets the law, which actually the mining law is the 1872 mining law and the revision in 1874. That's law. And that establishes the mining districts, and the mining districts can govern themselves in many cases with their own group. And it overrides a lot of this, even the Clean Water Act in you know, a lot of stuff that's happened since 1974
I think in the
is
80s
actually
they also,
overridden by the Mining Act and the mining, you know, groups, but they just go around the law. They don't
Yeah.
care what the law says.
Well, I believe that in the mid 1980s there was minor modification. That's when they came with the claim holding fee.
Yeah,
That was not in the original law, but they were trying to do some major renovations and basically get rid of it. And there was a lot of pushback, and so they wound up basically doing a compromise where essentially the patenting went out the window, and they had this claim holding fee and a few, you know, relatively minor tweaks like that. But yeah, it's been a fight for a long time.
you know, historically, and one of the claims we were on doing some mining,
I have no idea what you're talking about, Mr. Fang.
a guy claimed that ground in 1927, built a really nice log cabin up there, and he lived up there till 1973 when him and his wife passed away. And the only thing he'd ever paid is claim fees. He never even owned it. He lived there for all those years on his mining claim, mining away. You know, little bit at a time, make it look good at least.
Well, you're a psychic or psychotic or something, Mr. Fang. It's
No,
they're close.
We're seeing it big time here in this last go round. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't care what the law says or what the people have voted the laws in at.
Well, my daughter,
It doesn't fit
it's
the.
so funny. She's saying it doesn't
program.
matter who's president. It's like,
Oh yes,
I wonder
it
if you're
does.
going to believe that in another year or two. Oh, Mr. Fang says he's both psychic and psychotic. Sweet.
He got
Well.
superpowers.
Oh, superpowers. There you go.
He needs an honorary tinfoil hard hat.
Yeah.
If Eva says so. You know, we ought to do that. Did you know you can get aluminum hard hats?
Yes, I've even seen chrome ones that the oil guys had. They were chrome.
Well, you know, it'd be kind of cool if we had a Hard Rock U inscribed
I
tinfoil
was
hat, so
thinking
to
of
speak. That'd be
t-shirts
cool.
or something anyway.
You know, that'd be pretty funny.
Well, I've already designed some t-shirts. I
saw-
just gotta get around to finding a printer and getting,
There's a guy right up the street right here.
gonna start a merch store.
Well, you should. I think
Bear's
that's a cool
gonna have
idea.
merch.
Yeah, I saw one.
I mean, I'd buy
time.
one.
It was like aluminum hard hat, and when the guy had been in Pakistan or something like that, he'd given it to a metalsmith, and it was all scroll work and scrimshaw. Oh, it's
Some of them are,
beautiful
yeah,
stuff.
I have seen one of those.
Oh, those are
Yeah, it's
gorgeous.
like
man.
a piece of art instead of a hard hat.
Okay, would a shaker table or a Knudsen bowl be most efficient at concentrating? It will depend on what you are concentrating
Bob.
and what the, not only what form and size the gold is, but what the surrounding material is. Excuse me. And the only way you can really tell is to do a test. First thing, before I even worry about that, pulverize some more, pan it in a pan, and see if you can get to a concentrate. Don't try and get to gold. Just try and get to like a heavy mineral concentrate and your tailings, and then send it off for assay. If your tailings still have a bunch of gold in it, you may have a real problem on your hand for the gravity extraction. If, on the other hand, almost all the gold is in the concentrates, and there's very little and you want to make sure it's very finely ground. If there's very little in the tailings, then you have a good candidate for a gravity extraction. And once you have a good candidate for a gravity extraction, then I would recommend, if at all possible, find someone who's got each of those devices. Like in our case, we can take it to Montana Tech and have them run tests on each different.
Well,
thing.
another question, Bob, is, are you talking placer or hard rock? Because there'd be.
Well, that's true. I was assuming hard
right.
rock.
I
Yeah.
just thought about that as
Yeah.
I was listening to you. You know, if it's placer, Bob, it's a similar process. Is, you know, if you're able to pan it out fairly easily, or that, you know, as far as either your tailings coming off a sluice box or whatever, or cleaning your sluice box, an little RP4 table, that's what I went to. I tried a gold wheel, I tried all kinds of things, and I finally settled on it because I could run pounds of wet concentrates in an hour, and literally
Sounds about right for an
and I would
RP4.
keep my tailings from that. And when I had time with the heavy black sand I hack, and maybe over the winter or in the spring like this, I would rerun some of that black sand just to see. And occasionally I'd get a little bit of gold, but not really worth the amount of effort. But gold is gold. And if I have time, I'm going to get it. But, you know, in placer, a reason to go to a Knudsen bowl or something, a production system more so. You know, if you can winnow off the lights and take the heavies coming off the sluice box and then take them through a concentrator.
If anyone else is seeing buffering, let me know. David is. Go ahead.
You know, a concentrator is a real good way of sorting material that you're in process of running.
Yep.
Not so much as a cleanup tool. Not that it doesn't work as a cleanup tool, but really a cheaper way than a concentrator, because even a decent cheap concentrator is about 10 grand. You can buy an RP4 table, I don't know, off the internet right now, probably for around 3 grand or 3,400.
A new one, yeah.
And you might be able to buy a used one for 2,000.
Okay, so we're doing okay on the video. Now, Mr. Fang, if you file a claim with the county and then do not file with BLM in 90 days, do you inform the county or does it automatically fall off? It automatically falls off. You have failed in your filing requirements and it is no good. You have to go restake it.
Restart.
Yep.
Argonaut, BLM, if you have a plan of operations so that you've got a bond placed and everything. You can build a building on site for operations of the mine. And yes, you can live there.
If approved by the
If,
plan
well,
of
if,
operations.
right, it's got to be in the plan of operations. If not, if it's an active claim and you do have a notice of intent that you're going to do some prospecting and working on the claim, you can override the 13 or 14 day exclusion. As long as you're there working on the claim, you can have a camper on or near the claim and be able to continue working it all summer long. You fall out of that visitor 14-day visitor deal. You're a minor. That's a different. As a minor, you've got rights. As a visitor, you're a visitor.
Yeah, and the BLM will often try and jerk you around on that one too. That's why you need to have it approved in either notice of intent or plan of operations, because it is a variance from what they normally would enforce. They normally say, I don't care if you're mining.
Right. You got 14 days.
You can't mine without a plan of operations, so we'll just fine you for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, if you do a notice of intent, if you're just going to be prospecting, metal detecting, maybe working on a portal that's already open, as long as you have a notice of intent of what you're doing and why you're there, you can get an exclusion to the 14 days. And they're actually pretty good about that, really.
Well,
as long as they know why you're there and what you're doing. Well, here they were fighting us on some of that, and they've kind of backed off because you do have a right to access your minerals.
Yeah, well, down in Arizona, good luck.
Well, I mean, you do have to be mining. You can't just go out there and camp all summer and not do anything.
Oh no, I mean down in I was asking the Forest Service, can I use my electric demolition hammer to take a sample?
I know.
No, that's a power tool, not a hand tool. It's like, what the hell?
They don't like it, but we've done some core drilling with, just small core bit, 1.5-inch core bit.
Yeah.
And a generator and a big drill and stuff. And they've let us fly just with the notice of intent.
So that's what I'm saying. Up here, it's a different environment.
We've gone back and forth with them so much up here that, I mean, they have gotten to know quite a few of us
They're
to where
tired of being
they're like, oh, not you guys again. They're
okay.
Well,
leave.
We challenge them and we hold them to account, and they don't like that. They hate that.
Yeah,
but it's like we're going to do it. We're going to hold you to account. Well, even in the Forest Service, it's 14-day camping if you're camping, but you're a visitor. If you've got a mining claim, an active mining claim that you're paying money to own, you have the mineral rights. And that the way the court has looked at that in the past is you are a stakeholder. You're a landowner, basically, having those mineral rights. Mm-hmm. And that's under a whole different thing than a visitor that's in the forest visiting.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in Arizona, down there by Arivaca, during the winter, there's a lot of people who go down there, prospect, hunt, camp out or whatever.
Just spend 4 months.
And if the BLM doesn't check you out, and honest to God, I have never seen the BLM in the field there. Okay. But if the BLM doesn't check you out and then come back 2 weeks later and see you're still there, they can't prove a damn thing.
Not really.
And so they can, if they wanted to, they could probably make an issue, but I've never even seen them. Of course, it may be the fact that you'll see 5 Border Patrol, well, you used to see 5 Border Patrol agents in a day. I remember one time Joachim and Eva and I were out there, and I was just showing him some guns and stuff, and we got buzzed by a Border Patrol helicopter. It was funny.
Mr. Feng, as long as you're working on your claim, you can be there. And like I say, you want to give them a notice of intent or a plan of operations. If you're running, you're going to be really mining and ripping stuff up, then you have to have that plan of operations. But you're not just a camper visitor. You're there working, and you have a titled right to that.
Go ahead and keep it up for
Rob, I'm kind of interested in that because your carbon slate is definitely helped to precipitate the gold that's there, and somewhere along that edge or even within that carbon to a certain depth, you've got that gold. I mean, it's going to be interesting to kind of follow up and do maybe some reading on this a little bit more, because it'd be interesting to know what you're doing to process your gold, your rock right now. Are you having a problem with the carbon, or what's that at?
He does the wire gold. He's got specimen gold.
Well,
Oh, that would be believable, that your hydrothermal, because that's an acid against your carbon. So I mean, that's very believable that that's the production of your methane. I just doubt that the methane itself is the reason of the gold or the precipitation of the gold. I think it would be more the carbon. I'm going to do some reading on that. I'm going to do a little digging on that, though, because that's kind of interesting to me now. A question that we haven't had asked.
Well, we like all questions, asked or used. Your used
Well,
questions.
I'm looking, now this is specifically with sodium cyanide.
Ed, on that question there, you have to move at least 1 mile to do another 14 days if you're a visitor. Whether it's BLM or Forest Service. You can keep doing that, move every 14 days, a mile this way and a mile that way. But I mean, if you've got an active claim and you are a mineral holder, you can just file a notice of intent that I am going to camp there and I'm going to be there till, from April 15th till September 15th. And they don't like it, but they learn to live with you.
Now in Arizona, you have to be 20 miles away.
Really? From the first place?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's to keep them people from living down there.
Yeah.
See, up here,
So
we
they
don't
just
have
move 10 feet.
we don't have too much problem with that. They do come around occasionally, in the summer and drive through the main roads.
See, I'm looking through the bibliography on
Well, Mr.
Kinetics
Finn,
and mechanism
we've
of
talked
gold
about that as
dissolution.
doing a couple day deal or something at some point, and that may happen in the future. Neither Keith or I are on any real good prospects right now that we could do that, but that would be, sometime in the future if we could do a small get together for, a couple of days or a 4-day weekend or something like that.
Now here's an interesting publication here. And first of all, Rob, this is a bulletin by Montana Bureau of Mines. And these guys are pretty smart up here. Let's see, can you read that?
Probably about right there, probably.
Okay. Now this is specifically cyanide, but in the bibliography, this is kinetics and mechanism of gold and silver dissolution in cyanide solutions. Bulletin number 59, State of Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology. And for example, it's, let's see, the solution and precipitation of the cyanide of gold, American Institute of Mining Metallurgy, English translation, volume 3, page 735, 772. So there's a lot of, the solution and precipitation of gold, specifically from cyanide solutions, but in other solutions too, is heavily studied. And I would think that like Montana Tech or the Montana Bureau of Mines, probably Montana Tech better. If you go to Montana Tech and the Center for Advanced Metallurgical Processes,
Yep.
yeah, CAMP,
Camp.
ask them, and they might be able to point you somewhere specifically, because when you're talking Central Washington University, you're talking geologists. These guys are extractive metallurgists, and it's a different specialty, but it's more specific in some ways to what you're looking at. So that might be helpful.
Okay, all right. I got a question for you, Keith. That if you've got a hydrothermal solution that's
Right.
highly acidic, right,
Uh-huh.
and it comes up against carbon, wouldn't the carbon neutralizer drop the pH of the acid?
Not carbon, no.
Carbon still neutral?
Carbon's neutral. Yeah,
Okay.
it's non-ionic at all.
Okay.
It could precipitate it out of the solution. Now, limestone will tend to
Drop the
change it,
pH.
and that can
right.
cause real significant concentrations of gold. Yep. But and that's pH changes are one of the things that do tend to precipitate.
Right.
the
I was
gold.
just wondering
But
if carbon would affect that.
Carbon
you
is
know,
not a pH adjuster.
Okay.
It's pH neutral.
It's an absorber though.
Yeah, the gold ions will actually stick to the carbon.
Carbon.
It's a form of
Come out
chemical
as
attraction.
Okay.
Yeah,
come
I don't
out
know
of
if it's
solution.
van der Waals forces or whatever,
Yeah,
but yeah.
so that's over my pay grade.
but it has been heavily studied, at least in the metallurgical end. I mean, real specific tests have been run. They'll be able to.
Well, it's been studied in the mining. Now it's a matter of finding the research.
Now, in terms of the geochemical activity of carbon on gold-bearing solutions, look up the Carlin, Carlin deposits. I believe carbon precipitation was a major thing there. But the exact details of the chemistry I am not intimately familiar with. I've used tons of carbon to extract thousands of ounces of gold, and I know that as the carbon is used, it tends to lose some of its activity. And in the big mines now, they tend to reactivate it. They have their own high pressure steam autoclaves to do
Right.
that.
Argonaut on that question.
Quite often, yes, they might want a bond.
Well, yeah, with the notice of intent, usually you don't need authorization to be out there working. I mean, if you're just prospecting place to place out on BLM somewhere, that you have the right to do that. At the point that you file, let's say you file an active mining claim, you've paid your money, you have a mining claim, you definitely want to put a notice of intent in with the Forest Service or BLM, whoever is the jurisdiction. And all that does is it tells them that that's you there working, and you can limit them, like we had an earlier discussion here with secured site issues. Some guys brought up last Sunday that, they came back to their adit they were working at or pulling some samples on, and it was all welded shut and the gate locked up. And well, when you put in an active claim, guess what? Now they know where that's at. They know there's an adit there.
Was it gated or was it bulldozed? I thought.
One of them mentioned bulldoze. There was two different guys. Horton, B.R. Horton mentioned it, and then Ethan Peterson. But if you file a notice of intent, you can also tell them that they're not to touch that adit or that hole you're digging in until they talk to you about, what your intent is there. That way you don't show back up next weekend and they got it all bulldozed and flattened out for you or closed up and plugged up. But that would be a case where you you've paid your claim fees, you're using it. See, there's an inherent, even though that portal's been sitting there for 60 or 100 years open, the minute that you've got an active claim on it, for some reason, they have an odd sense of timing to show up and try to close it, even though now you're looking at it. So you definitely, by doing the notice of intent and telling them, you don't do anything here until you consult me. It is up to you under the inherent liability to get it secured and maybe posted with signs that dangerous, do not enter, da-da-da. Ideally, put a gate on it and lock it up yourself with your padlock.
Okay, Mr. Fang, any news on you guys coming back down south? I have a feeling Tucson may never see Keith again. I can pretty much guarantee it we'll never see Eva again.
I will give
Keith
him
needs to go get more toys.
I will give him temporary travel visas.
That's
he
it.
violates his travel visa,
He's
he will
done.
be in detention.
He's a dead man.
Anyhow, so it's possible. I have some equipment and stuff down there I might want to go get, this, that, and the other. We'll see. Mr. Fang wants Eva to visit him. Okay. Anyhow,
The only thing that will ever get me back to Tucson is if my son gets married.
yeah. Now, thank you, Rob. I appreciate it, and we're trying to do what we can.
2 weeks.
I wish I was more knowledgeable and could be more helpful. Any local places to look for mining jobs this summer besides the internet third-party headhunters? Glenn, down there in probably be listed as Brawley, California. My brother just got a job working there. It's a place, the Mesquite Mine, used to be run by Goldfields International. Goldfields Proprietary, I think it was, from South Africa. But they're reopening it, and if you got heavy equipment experience, you can probably get a job pretty easily there. They're busting tail 6 days a week. So
The
Yeah.
Stillwater mine over in eastern Montana's had openings occasionally here too.
are they opening? What was that one mine they were opening over here that you see the billboards up
Oh,
for?
Black Butte.
Black
They
Butte?
they might be hiring also. Look up Black Butte on the internet and talk to those guys, because that's a nice crew of guys over there. I've been dealing with one of their geologists a little bit. Good guys. They'd probably be really fun to work for.
Now, let's see. Anyone here in Tucson? You mean anyone else there in Tucson you could talk to, Mr. Fang? Is that what you're trying to say? And I kind of hate leaving Ryan in the lurch a little bit, but unfortunately, okay, he's looking for anyone in the chat in Tucson. And say it kind of goes against my craw to leave something unfinished, but unfortunately, I can't do it from here. And my wife's more important than Ryan. But
Maybe Mr. Fang would like
that
to
was
meet
some
Brian.
that was some really helpful and interesting ore he was bringing to me. So I'd like to be able to repay it in some way at some time. But I say I may be down there, Mr. Fang, maybe not. I don't know. I do have a small impact. It's an Action Mining impact mill in Tucson that is for sale if somebody wants it. I think they sell new for $3,000 mines. I've improved it in my opinion, and I'd sell it for $500. The impactors they had with it lasted about 4 hours. They were carbide tipped,
I believe it.
but the shanks wore out as fast as the tips. And you know how much they wanted for a set of impactors? About $300. It's like, no, I'm sorry, $300 per 100 pounds.
Should you build your own?
Yeah, I just used one inch steel bar with hard facing.
There you go.
It worked. Yep. I'm glad, Terry. It's kind of nice. I agree that the two of us here, we kind of play off each other pretty well.
We haven't heard each other yet.
Yeah.
Well,
Keith hasn't had to knock me out of my chair
you
yet.
know,
or
I
anything.
personally,
Shut up.
I personally think that the tinfoil hat segment lends a
Oh,
certain
you got to have that.
Yeah,
That's mandatory.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
that's-
class in that segment
yeah,
there.
That's mandatory, that part.
Yep.
Keith and I are probably replaceable.
Well, you know, I'll
If
say
you ever get a super chat, y'all will be in trouble.
We can't replace you, Eva. It can't happen.
but anyhow, so I say that's the situation there. I've got plenty to keep me busy up here, and the fishing's pretty good too.
I had another trout for dinner.
Yes, she did. And, yeah, I'd say I'm finally getting a little bit. I want to go down below Hauser Dam there and try my technique that's working real
Try it a
well,
little more.
because it's pretty much beating everything else to this point pretty successfully, and it should work below Hauser. I'm going to lose a lot of rigs, but all they are is a bare hook, a split shot, and an egg sinker.
Some
I
of
mean,
that,
how much does that cost you?
Depending on if the dam is open, at a certain point, the water gets pretty high down there for a while,
Yeah.
for about a month, that the fishing kind of goes downhill.
Yeah.
And then, once the dam once the water drop decides a little bit resides, it's better.
Well, we could try the causeway too. We were also over there
We'll see
at Lakeside. That's pretty over there.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh.
pretty.
Oh, yeah. There's some nice country around.
Yeah. Okay, David. Good
Yeah.
night to you too. And
Good night, David.
I'll say it. I are just having a good old time up here. Yeah, even below Canyon Ferry Dam, the technique should theoretically work.
Yeah.
Again, I know I'm going to lose a lot of rigs in the rocks, but what the heck? I say, when you're throwing $5 to $10 lures, that gets pretty freaking annoying.
Yeah, it gets spinny.
But when you're throwing an egg sinker and a hook, it doesn't get nearly as stressful. Over there at the park here, I don't think I've lost a rig.
That's pretty clean in there, because that's
I
part of
did.
what-
I hooked a bush off at the dock
part of
there.
that's where the dredge quit. That's what that is.
That's a dredge pond.
Yep.
Okay.
That's where on 10 Mile right here. That's where the dredge quit.
Okay.
So that's why it's such a nice kind of. Well, they've landscaped it quite a bit, to make a park out of it. But that was a dredge
Good
pond.
fishing.
And they were digging some clay right there for the brick foundry. Some of the gravel and the sand and clay was going out to the brick foundry.
No. I say I've been trying everything. Lures and
Yeah, maybe.
just about everything. But the thing that's working is, believe it or not, take probably a quarter ounce, maybe might be a third or a half ounce egg sinker, but not real big, just about that big. Put a split shot on the line as a stopper,
Yeah.
and so the fish can pull it out without feeling that. And then thread a whole night crawler on the line with a worm threader,
Yeah.
and then put a marshmallow on the hook.
Hey, if it's
And
working.
yesterday we were testing. We had one line with just marshmallows, one line with just worm. Boring. So then I brought one of them in for whatever reason, and I baited it up with the two, which I had done
Mhm.
previous time, and got 6 fish over there
Oh, wow.
one afternoon.
Mhm.
And threw it back out there. It got bit. I think I still kept leaving the other one. I think the bear night crawler, because I caught a few on that before, and threw it out again with the worm and the marshmallow. Got another fish. I was like, okay, so I just started baiting them like that and caught. And
You got 4 trout and 1 perch.
that perch was like this big.
Oh, yeah.
It was
They're good eating, but like that, if they're full of
it
eggs
was,
right now.
It was ready to lay eggs.
Throw them back and catch them
Yeah.
later.
And so
Thanks, Glenn, for being here. If you have more questions, fire them at us. So
okay, Glenn.
hope to
Yeah.
see you again.
And everybody planning on being back next Monday night, tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, at the usual time, 6 in the evening, with the Tinfoil Hat Report on at 7:30. And we'll see how that works. Notice the live stream has been working
Pretty
fine
good
now. So I think it's the internet. It's just the traffic somewhere.
Sunday nights are killing us.
That's correct, Mr. Fang. I'll probably put a little notice on, a little
This
video
week,
notification, posted on Sunday. But we're going to try and avoid the issues. And Eva's got a job 1 day a week on Tuesdays. So when we start getting in the field, which won't be too long now, we'll always be back on Monday nights.
That one's for you.
Can uranium mining be profitable on a small scale, or is it more just the big operations thing? Used to be profitable on a small scale. I think today it no longer is. There's not the demand there was.
Yeah, if you had a specific kind of rock, it might be possible on a small scale because certain elements in it that they want. But my guess is that would be a no.
Yeah. And Bob, you can always go back and review the tinfoil hat. It might have been number 2. I think it was on this stream, wasn't it? But I mean, we've done 4 streams tonight because internet issues.
Restarted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of neat, Robert, that Rob was on here, and maybe he's still on here.
Man, I definitely have to make a video to go there.
Oh man, yeah, but it's nice to have some input from some other, real miners that are out there trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
That helps us as much as we maybe can help him, or vice versa, because this is how information is learned, that you don't know where to research or don't know where to go. Who do I talk to? And I think within the mining community, it's pretty neat to be able to talk with miners.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Chris Georgie is having internet issues at his place. And so that's why we haven't seen him the last few streams. I know, at least I miss him because he's got a lot of good information and stuff.
Yeah, he might be able to help Rob.
But
you should shoot him an email.
It's an access issue.
You should shoot him an email about Rob.
Yeah, it could be.
Thing.
Yeah.
I believe that, Bob. I've heard of a lot of catalytic converters that have been stolen up here.
Oh yeah, catalytic
I don't know where they're selling them, but they seem to disappear.
Converters, if you can do the processing, are a great thing to
No,
mine.
he's just saying 2 grams of platinum and rhodium in them. He sold 2 of them. Yeah.
Well, Ed, I guess you're local to Tucson there too, because he says Fang for best kettle corn ever. Tankerville swap meet on the backside is Keith's Wild West concession. It really is the best, and I'm not bragging. I am a world-class kettle corn cook. Tom, who's running it while I'm gone, he's pretty darn good too.
I re-engineered the secret sauce.
And so yes, it is. It's not unusual for us to, be told that's the best kettle corn I've ever had. And our kettle corn has actually gone to Afghanistan. I don't know if it's the 82nd or the 101st Airborne, whoever was over there. I was in San Diego, like in 2003. Some lady comes up and says, "Does this stuff travel well?" And I go, "Well, if I double bag it, yeah,
should keep the air off it."
And she says, "Well, I'd like to send some to Afghanistan." And I said, "Well, I can't ship it there, but if you can get the transport, I'd be happy to cook it." And said, "How much is it?" And I said, "Is it going to our troops, right?" She goes, "Yep." I said, "Nothing. And I'll be happy to provide any reasonable quantity free of charge if it's going to our troops." So she shipped 20 medium bags to her son.
That's cool.
And he was like the most popular guy in the barracks for a week. And then she came back a couple weeks later and got another 20 bags. It was really cool to be able to help out like that.
Well, thanks, Terry. And if you guys, anybody out there has a subject that they'd like to, us to kind of dwell on one night for a little while or whatever, shoot those ideas to Keith. And, because we kind of look for a theme at least to kind of get the ball rolling. And this has been working out so much. It's fun. This is really fun.
Isn't it the questions that really make things
I think
work best?
It keeps building, and everybody can chime in then with questions.
Yeah.
So
it really, really helps.
The more of this we do, it's good for all of us, if we can learn something today.
Yeah, no, I say it really works well. Any question you have, somebody else probably has too.
Yeah.
And if not, it's because they don't know enough to have the question. So yeah. Anyhow, I think that's about it for tonight. And we'll be back in 8 days, I guess. And hopefully
Thanks, Patrick.
we're going to see if we can start making some videos here pretty quick. That would be nice. I got to get that computer going.
That's true. In like gold and silver, the premiums that they're getting, if you want to physically go buy gold or silver right now and put it in your hand, some of these premiums have gone high.
Average 30%.
And honestly, Bob, at that point, what's the true value? Because if somebody's willing to pay that high premium to own it, that is the true value.
Yep.
It's not the market that they say that, gold's $1,750. If somebody's willing to pay $1,850 or $1,900 for that, 1 ounce gold coin or whatever, the true value is that high number.
Yeah, and Bob, if you go back the last, 3 or 4 weeks there,
Yeah, last
look for
Sundays.
Eva with her little tinfoil hat on. She has covered that in greater detail at other times.
Yep.
But yes, she would agree. The markets are being heavily interfered with at this
Absolutely.
time.
Well, they need to suppress it because if everybody goes to gold or silver, the dollar's done. So they've done everything they can through the central banks and that to suppress that
And if
price,
everybody
because
owns paper gold,
the minute we all lose faith in that $1 bill, it's completely worthless.
Well,
And we're nearing that day. That day is coming.
and everything is so interconnected economically in the world now.
That's what's going to be
that
bad.
One major domino falling may take out the whole system.
Well, you've
they're
got.
predicting a potential stock market crash in April, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah, I know that. I've been watching that.
Also, for those who are curious, there is a strong correlation between shifts in lumber futures and shifts in gold prices for some bizarre reason.
Well, the money will run to commodities. And that could
Oh,
be
yeah.
lumber, it could be oil, it could be wheat, but it'll always be gold and silver. And when it takes off, they can control some of it. But when the money runs, to hard asset or, material asset, the dollar's day is over.
Well, right now I'd say the futures for large container ships is pretty minimal. Oh, those guys that's hilarious. Actually, I've heard there's a real problem with getting containers because the whole system was balanced. You ship stuff over there and then the container comes back and stuff.
And they were building new containers.
And now
Then
that it's unbalanced, they're not getting the containers back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Bob, it could very well be an accident if what we're told is there were some pretty high winds at the time, and a ship that big, because it's so long compared to the canal, like a plane, say it's flying against the wind, it'll turn into the wind and fly like this. Well, a ship can kind of do the same thing, but if you're tightly constrained with a big ship, you can't do that. And Juan Brown on the Blanco Lirio channel, who, by the way, flies 777s and stuff, he did the calculations and said that size ship with a 40-mile-an-hour crosswind or 40 kilometers, whichever it was, said that will have 1 million pounds of force pushing on it.
Sideways.
And the thrusters cannot fight against that.
They can't compensate.
And so, yeah, it would not surprise me if they had those kind of winds. I would not be surprised at all if they didn't do that. However, it does show a serious lack of judgment. Unfortunately, that is not uncommon in this world, so it's not necessarily probative. How many people you know it? But when they launched Challenger and it blew up, the night before, the engineers who worked for the company that makes the solid rocket boosters were doing everything they could to stop the launch. And in fact, in the meeting they were having, the NASA guy said, "Would you please quit screaming into the phone?" Now, I don't know about you, but when the guy who makes the thing that I'm trusting my life with says, it's going to blow up, I kind of think I ought to listen, you know? But I say that was a huge case of just, what the fuck are you thinking? And I wouldn't be surprised if some idiot with a container ship. Now, according to Eva, there are rumors that the pilot of the container ship. Now, for those of you who don't know ships, when a ship is entering or leaving a port or a channelway like coming into the Columbia River, they have a person who's very familiar with that area and who understands ships get on board the ship and drive the ship. Basically, he's the pilot. He tells the operators what to do, so because he's familiar with the territory.
Stay in the shipping channel,
and according to Eva, the pilot on that ship was a young woman, which would just be hilarious. There's all kinds of memes out there. Never ask a woman to parallel park your container ship. You know, I do not know if that is true, but anyhow, the idea that a ship that big could screw up in that tight a channel, that doesn't shock me that much. It would be surprising if they were dumb enough to be attempting it in a high wind. But again, that doesn't shock me too much. Yeah.
Well, they say they don't normally get those intense winds, I guess.
But there was also a sandstorm that was obscuring vision.
That's what they say. I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure. But Stephen B., when you watch the tracking of the ship, it started fishtailing. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't just going right down the center of the channel. Absolutely right. And Rick Jobling says, I need more power, Scotty, more power.
I cannot hold her.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, if they were having high winds and a sandstorm, you would think they would have had the sense not to go in there. But then again, that's just me.
I don't think a ship that long has ever really, I mean, that's one of the biggest ships in the world. It's twice the weight of an aircraft carrier and 400 feet longer. Longer, I think is the term. Yes. See, getting old.
No, more long.
Yeah. But anyhow, so it was a really big ship and that channel wasn't really built for it. But yeah, there have been times when the Suez Canal was shut down due to war. There have been ships sunk in it and things like that. But in terms of an accident of that nature, I'm not aware of any, but that doesn't mean that, I say, it's a unique situation. A 1,400-foot long ship at 200,000 tons going through a channel 900 feet wide. What could possibly go wrong?
Sheer lunacy. They should have taken the Russian marketing plan.
Yeah. I agree that there's a lot of things to be quite suspicious about. It wouldn't shock me if there was something intentional there, but I don't see who profits from it. That's the thing.
Now that oil spill that's wrecking Israel's beaches right now, that's a different thing.
Yeah. You always look and say, okay, who benefits from it? And I don't see who benefits from the container ship being stuck there. Seems like it pretty much screws everybody, but it doesn't. That doesn't prove one thing or another.
The pirates off the African Horn.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, Bob. I simply don't know. It seems to me like a lot of the things that are happening now are just to screw things up. A lot of policies that I'm seeing are like, well, any idiot can see that's not going to work, but they're still being implemented. So I don't know. I really don't know, but it's quite the situation. And luckily, the ship is relatively undamaged, and the dredges should be able to free it fairly quickly. They've got big dredges, basically getting the sand from underneath the ship, and that's another good thing too. It's not rocks; it's just sand. So it not only didn't damage the ship when it hit it, but it's easy to remove to refloat the ship. So, Bob, I'm not disagreeing with that one for sure.
What?
New World Order depopulation plan.
Well, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Google the Great
That's
Reset
scary.
or Agenda 2030. The UN website is really scary.
We probably better stop talking about that, or we
Yeah,
won't be
can't
able to
read
talk about
Yeah.
gold
Anything.
mining here. But yeah, it's just, there's a reason Eva and I are up here in Montana and we moved in the middle of winter. It's not because we thought everything was looking great. Yep.
It's because there's fresh fish up here.
Well, Ed, if you have a particular question on that, just comment when this thing goes up on the main site, and Eva will be happy to research it for you. Just come up with a specific question that something can be researched and answered in a relatively straightforward manner, not like, what are world governments thinking? That's just a real broad subject. But
Nothing good. There's your answer.
Yeah.
Simple answers.
But that's exactly what the tinfoil hat report is all about.
Yeah. We can discuss the fact that George Bush is a descendant of Vlad Tepes the Impaler.
Yeah.
I don't think Google would have a problem with that this year.
No, it's what was that one? Somebody had some little funny joke about that that ship. But yeah, it's a pretty bizarre situation, but no more bizarre than others I've seen in the past.
No more bizarre than the
So-
Iranian oil tanker that just followed all of Israel's beaches.
Yeah.
And again, it's the sort of thing where, when people turn off their tracking systems and then turn them back on, it kind of makes things obvious. But anyhow,
Yeah, I agree with you, Rick.
I
They are.
don't know if that's the case, but they're definitely deep state, And
Bunch of kleptocrats.
They
the
go
deep
back
state
They go
are
back to Germany and Brazil both.
the deep state is a bunch of sociopaths, in my opinion. They don't care how many people they hurt as long as they get their way. And that's a very, very bad situation, in my opinion. But anyhow, again, we're getting a little bit far off the track here. Anyone else got any questions? And again, anything that looks like it'd be good for the tinfoil hat report, put it in the comments when this thing is up on the main site.
Or email my bear and he'll get it to me.
I don't know about gold under the World Trade Center. I know that the gold that was in
That disappeared.
the Federal Reserve seems to be
Not there.
hard to find.
No, it's not.
The
Well-
German gold that was supposed to be stored there is taking them years and years and years to get loaded up and shipped out. And they had
Texas
to,
Well, they
gold
keep-
hasn't gotten to Texas.
Yeah, well, they
Texas
keep
is
saying
still
that,
waiting.
Fort Knox had gold in it at one time too.
Yeah, Fort Knox has not been seen since Nixon sealed it in 1970.
Actually, the last audit was long before that.
Yeah.
It was
what they
before
call an
Kennedy,
audit
so it's
now-
59 or something.
Yeah, they
what
just checked the
what
books.
they call
I
an
don't-
audit now is they look at the seal and say, yeah, that looks like the same seal that's
Yeah,
been there
yeah.
since
Nobody's
1970.
opened the door.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's because they emptied it first.
Yep, Terry, there's a lot of that going around, and I have a feeling it'll be even more in the not too distant future. That's why we're in Montana. Where men are men and the women like it that way. I actually saw a t-shirt like
Where
that.
men are men and the sheep are very, very frightened.
Yeah.
Patrick says Fort Knott.
Fort Knox.
Yeah, could
no,
be.
I
Yeah,
agree.
I would go along with that.
That's
one.
not bad.
They
not
emptied
bad.
that thing a long time ago.
Anyhow, anyone else got any questions or anything here? Oh dearie, it's about time for me to go night tonight.
Lightweight. See, Bear is not on a civilized schedule. A civilized schedule is you go to bed at 2 a.m. and you get up at 10.
I'm uncivilized. I told you I'm a barbarian. You know that. Actually, her taste buds are so much better than mine. It's insane. She can sense nuances, and I'm like,
I did
fire,
not-
meat,
I
good.
did not give him any
You know?
of my new ice cream tonight. If I did, it would be gone.
By historical geology with Chris White.
That could be interesting, Jeff.
Okay,
That's the
Argonaut,
stuff
you're
I'm always
welcome.
looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming on midnight there.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, guys. And, if you have questions, get them fired off, even on the, YouTube channel itself.
Yeah.
And, we'll try to
And we can
keep
work.
picking subjects if,
Yeah,
even
we
if
can
we
work
have,
it into the beginning of the next one too. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you think of a good question, just get it to us.
and we can go
And if you want
backwards on
something
subjects
tinfoil
too.
hat investigated, email my bear.
Yeah, Rick Zinter's got good stuff. He's a pretty good presenter.
He's excellent. Love that dude.
2:56
Well,
p.m.
it's
here.
in Australia. Yeah, you're already in tomorrow
Well, of course he's in tomorrow.
from here.
You want a real laugh?
Yeah, no, that's
Back there was some crisis or disaster or shooting or something. I forget which one it was. A couple of years ago. And I was in the Fry's grocery store in Tucson. And no lie, people, you want to know how stupid young people are today.
I was talking to this chick in the Fry's grocery store, and she mentioned whatever the shooting scandal or crazy thing that had happened was. And I said, yeah, we've gotten a whole lot more information from it, from the Daily Mail, the British paper, than we are from the American papers. And she gives me this superior look, and she says, well, yeah, that's because they're 9 hours ahead of us. Time zones work. And she meant it, people.
Okay, let's
It's like,
see.
okay.
Okay, we got somebody who wants to send you some maple syrup here.
MacGyver, yeah, we were talking about that 2 weeks ago, I think. How'd that go, Robert? I've been thinking about that lately. Just, man, I kind of missed that season here in Montana. There's nothing to tap.
Oh, we got to play some sugar maples up here.
Yeah, I don't think they'll take it here.
Okay,
They
Robert.
would grow
Well,
here. I don't know
I've
if
got
they
it.
would make it.
Yeah, maybe if you had good irrigation in that down here in the valley somewhere, maybe, but
Along a river.
yeah, or some real good sugar maples along the river where they got good water.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send you the address. So anyhow,
How about maple sugar candy? I like maple sugar candy. You know the little things that look like maple leafs?
He probably hasn't tried that yet. You never know.
oh, she wasn't. She doesn't believe in the masks. Yep. Yeah.
Face diapers.
Or as what Garrett calls them, chin bras.
Yeah.
Well, mine is a chin bra. You notice where it is when we
Put
go
it
to
on your
Walmart?
chin.
Yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, we'll send you that
Ridiculous.
that address, Robert. Anything else? The shit gets worse. I gotta start carrying the 44 to go shopping again.
Hey, it might freak out the 27 leftists who still live here, and maybe they'll move.
I don't know. But yeah,
Well, Walmart said you can carry a gun in there as long as it's concealed because they don't want to upset anybody.
Right.
So you need a
Wear a
smaller
coat.
gun.
wear a coat. Well, I got the 357 I could put in my pocket. Stubby. You know.
I got a nice little 9.
Okay. Well, y'all.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks everybody for being here tonight.
Good night, everybody.
Y'all take care and think up questions for next week, and we'll try and come up with some answers. So happy prospecting and keep it safe out there. Yeah, I got your email, Robert.